Hey, we are live. Wonderful. So today I'm going to be playing in Davh's Ogre tournament where it's the same as multiplayer, but you can take ogres. Absolutely wonderful and very exciting. And for just a quick showcase of the ogre units, here they are. Actually, Lizardman is a really bad faction to showcase them. Here we go. So we got Mournfang Cavalry. Basically Demogryph Knights-ish, except a little bit chunkier, even fewer models, but quite a scary unit. Although quite expensive too at the same time. They're sort of like Stag Knights. There are normal ogres that do trade fairly well into infantry of the same price range. There are ogre dual weapons, which do quite well against elite infantry, trading fairly evenly without any infantry support. And then the good old man-eaters, who will trade into units of the same price category. So these guys should do very well in even what you would expect to be bad matchups against things like Black Orcs and so on. So it should all be pretty exciting, and at this point I just gotta wait for the tournament to begin, which will hopefully be very soon. I see some people joining in chat too. Hello and welcome. And yeah, as soon as we find a match, it should be good. Alrighty, so recently I've been thinking of getting a different first pick faction, because nowadays Vampire Coast, they actually had a fairly bad matchup against Beastmen before, and now it's a little bit worse, especially with people sort of figuring that out and doing quite well on the single entity game along with defending their archers. I don't feel as confident with Coast as I did before, which puts me in a bit of a predicament, because all the other factions I sort of learned as counter picks instead of actually mastering them, which, well, that's a little bit of a problem, isn't it? Yeah, these guys, I don't really know what I'm super comfortable first picking. Of course, I did have Wood Elves that I played for a spell that did decently for themselves, although I would run into a few matchups that I was quite uncomfortable in. It could also be possibly an undead faction. Maybe I learn vampire accounts. They are extremely strong. Dowie, maybe, although in this rule set, the flash bombs and runes and restock are all limited to 1. But perhaps, I don't think dwarves have gone significantly buffed with the patch though. In fact, they may very well be weaker, but I think my general stance is that they got slightly improved, which is not enough to really launch them into the meta, I would say. That is until our dwarf build crafters actually come up with something amazing. Hey, Virtual Magi. Hey, welcome. Oh my goodness. Always fun seeing familiar names in chat. But yeah, I think, I'm not sure. I was thinking I could also do Lizardmen, but as of late, I haven't had extreme luck with them. I'm not sure really how I feel about their playstyle. Like, the cheaper hunting packs and salamanders is pretty fun, but honestly, I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see. But my first opponent, No Gain, No Gain, actually, I think a viewer of the stream. So let's go ahead and send them a message and get into the game. Oh no, but the bracket is just in preview, so we will continue waiting. And yeah, we should be starting very soon. You just opened a cider. It can start now. Well, I'm trying. I'm trying to get it started as quickly as I can. But let's see. I could also play Beastmen, but that's not exactly my... It's not like my favorite type of play style. I could become an Empire main. Oh yeah. Jonathan also saying Empire would be good. Maybe, like, they're a really nice generalist faction. They're good at ranged, but I'm not sure. Like, they never felt extremely strong for me, so I don't know how good they would be as a first pick in general. Of course, greenskins I feel are actually still fairly decent in the meta, and my favorite cavalry builds have recently gotten buffed in the speed department. But otherwise, it's a lot of nerfs, so it doesn't feel super great playing greenskins, even though I'm pretty sure they are still fairly strong as a faction. But what else? What else? Potentially Skaven. Some fun Skaven shenanigans are a possibility. They got fast monsters, they got good guns, but also not an extremely not like the most. It's more than halfway up the list on factions I want to main. But you know, maybe it is a vampire counts day. Now let's see, factions will have access to ogres, but I think vampire counts is fine in that department, although they won't really use ogres themselves. I don't think ogres pose a threat at all for the vampire counts. Alternatively, I could, for today, because this is an ogre faction tournament. Yeah, the Hound Frenzy build, oh my gosh, so fun. But what I'm thinking, these guys, compare them to rat ogres real quick. Remember, these guys are 250 gold cheaper, and they have more HP, they have more armor, they do the same amount of armor piercing damage. Like, these guys are basically rat ogres, and given that Skaven really rely on rat ogres to do well, and to defend their guns, I'm feeling like maybe today's a Skaven main day. And that should be pretty exciting. I do think so. That actually feels really good. Oh man, I just remembered. I haven't advertised my stream at all. Oh my gosh, and I was just sitting around talking in the rules discussion chat. Oh dear, I've completely skirted my responsibilities. How dare I? Let me go ahead and open that up right now. And then we can get a few more people in chat. If you guys have any ideas for the good old ogre strats, let me know and I might try them out. Playing in Davh's ogre tournaments. Expect even at ogres, but at 550 gold. All right, there we go. That should be good enough advertising, I think, right? I guess I might as well, you know, just throw the spam in a couple other discords. Oh man, the strangeness of advertising yourself on Discord. I still haven't really gotten used to it, but you know, you gotta do a bit of self promotion. You gotta be a little bit shameless if you want to grow your channel a tiny bit faster. I think that's good enough for the greater good. Hey, Biblington, hello. Huzzah, give me them big belly brutes. It's gonna be pretty hype. Like, ogres for Skaven? Come on, they're so, like, look at the comparison. It's amazing. I guess they don't have Frenzy, but like, what does Frenzy give? 10 melee attack? Does that matter? Maybe, but their leadership breaks anyways. Ogres versus rat ogres, roadblock. I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but sure. But yeah, I think these guys are probably one of the, like, low-key best units on the ogre roster. Just because they are so insanely cheap. It's mass for the cost of chat, essentially. Okay, and there we go. It looks like there are much fewer people in the tournament today. Cool. And we might be up against Renegade, a player that I do not know who they are, but it should be fun. But let's see. So we got ogres for Skaven, but what else? Well, I'll have to figure out my bans for Skaven, I guess. Beastmen are now more terrifying than ever. Although I guess ogres will help defend against chariots, so it's not the worst. But usually before I go for a kite build against beastmen, and I guess that still sort of works, but with their monstrous units, the wolf rats aren't nearly as effective. Ooh, I'm not sure, but maybe I'll leave it unbanned. The chances that I'll be able to still beat beastmen, I think it's possible. There's a chance. CA always breaks something. You saw Indie Pride's video about the broken damage on infantry with counter charges against cavalry. Yeah, that is true. Although it is a fairly difficult setup to actually do, and it's easily avoidable. Just don't charge great weapon infantry in the face. It's just pretend they're spears and you're more or less fine. So although the bug can be very extreme in the worst case scenario, the fact that you can avoid it makes it not as bad. And most people weren't, like, you know, they would poke at great weapon infantry a bit before, but it's not like that was the most OP thing ever. Are the ranged ogres any good at range? It would finally give vampire counts a ranged option. Oh my god, that's amazing. Oh, I have to try that now. Vampire counts with the man-eaters? These guys would destroy boxes easily. Because if you look at their missile strength, a single volley from these guys does about 1,000 damage. And most of it is AP. So honestly, it's pretty good. The main downside of these guys is that they're gonna get, you know, they don't have any healing, so they're gonna get shot at quite a bit, which sort of sucks as a vampire counts player, but I really like that. I think that's pretty sick. Could very well be a 3-up today. Ah, there we go. And the tournament has started. And we got about 7 people. And my first opponent is Lunacy. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, Lunacy. Okay, we matched. Sweet. So I'll go ahead and set up a lobby. And we can dive right on in. Game number 1. All right, host the battle. Here we go. I'll send him a quick invite. Oh, I don't have him on Steam? That's strange. Let's see here. Lobby is called Enticity versus Lunacy. All right. Now that that's out of the way, all we must do is simply wait. And I'll go grab a screen blocker. While I can, we shall dive right on in. Let's see. I need to update this screen blocker too. Don't mind my lack of professionalism. I pray one day I will get over it. There we go. Look at that nice screen blocker. The main heaters are making you swoon. Can't wait for the full roster now. I gotta say, lead belchers are gonna be just too hype. It's gonna be too hype, man. Lead belchers are so exciting. The chariots are pretty annoying in quick battles. I would imagine wargors can pretty consistently get 2,000 gold value. Just because they essentially operate like single entity monsters, but as chariots, so they are able to hit and move at the same time. It's generally pretty scary because they can chase down different creatures, and of course they are quite good against infantry as well. Just an absolute terror. Let's see. Yeah, heard that chariots are broken as well. Some of them more or less operate like very strong chariot units instead of being broken. But the single entity ones are probably the scariest right now, whereas the normal ones are operating like chariots before the mass changes that really nerfed them. Oh yes, real small tournament. It was bigger, but it seemed like a lot of people simply were not able to check in or something. Who knows? Let's go ahead and check Davh's Discord to make sure that everything is working as expected. Okay, says bracket is live. Ogres, let's see, check-in starts in 27 minutes. All right, well, there we go. We're waiting for our opponent. I still haven't gotten a response from Lunacy, so hopefully I get that sometime soon, or else we'll just be sitting here for a while. Just nice and relaxed. I think Ice Power is also streaming right now, his tournament one, so feel free to check him out. As yeah, Ice Power, very proficient player. I would expect Ice Power to get to the finals today. Don't know if they'll win it, but finals seems likely. As for myself, I really don't know which factions I'm going to be playing exactly, so I honestly I don't have too many ideas of what I'm going to be doing here. And I may get knocked out extremely quickly. We will have to see. Alright, sweet. So Lunacy has sent me a friend invite, which means that I can invite them to this lobby. And there we go, our opponent has arrived. Wonderful. Cherry, you could go upvote his stream. Oh yeah, feel free to. But for now, I do have my opponent. And it's gonna be Lunacy. He is picking first. And let's see if a possible Skaven counter pick is good here. We'll see. If he does go for Wood Elves, I'm not sure exactly what I want to play into Wood Elves. I guess I have a couple options. The map is extremely small too, which could very well be in my favor. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. The rules, by the way, for this tournament are going to be the banner rules created by Falcon. So not technically the official banner rules, but I think he stays the most faithful to it out of all of the other rule sets. And there we go. It looks like it's going to be a chaos pick. Very exciting. Let's see. Chameleon Stalkers, too, are not limited in any way. I don't even know if they're a range unit exactly. Yeah, Chameleon Stalkers are not a range unit in this rule set, so potentially some shenanigans there. But we'll have to see. What lunacy is this? Oh man. Oh, chat never fails to make me gag ever so slightly. Now he's hovering a lot of factions right now, trying to figure out what is the best option here. Honestly, with the new patch and the fact that we can play ogres, I have no idea what to play here. And it is going to be a Wood Elf Van Lizardmen and Beastmen pick. Now I can go Greenskins. That would be one of the more common picks against Wood Elves here. Of course, it's a short map too. I don't have any more Fanatics, but that feels pretty good as a base. Tomb Kings is a little bit more prone to being rushed in this sort of setup. I could just go for the Wood Elf Mirror, but of course that would be a little bit boring, wouldn't it? And I definitely wouldn't go Skaven here. Honestly, if he's going Wood Elves, it's not really a great setup, but like Greenskin seems like the most obvious pick, doesn't it? Or Bretonia. I'll go Bretonia. Alright. Now here we go. Bretonia, famous for its cheap frontline, now has ogres. That's right. Classic standard ogres, which could actually beef up my frontline quite a bit here. Now, Lunacy, there's a very high chance that he's going to be bringing spears, but let's see. Yeah, I could do something like this. It could go the anti-infantry route. That would make them a lot more expensive. But this could actually be pretty good, right? If I go Bretonia, but with a really strong front line, perhaps I'll be able to break through any Wood Elf boxes. I think so. Oxyotl Skink Doom stack. I might try that today. That does sound quite fun. Can you use dwarves with ogres in this tournament? You can use anything with ogres. Absolutely anything. It's gonna be glorious. Now, the possibilities of getting kited here, I think that's the opportunity definitely exists. I might to go for like a sort of cavalry spam type of build here with tons and tons of cavalry. And then probably just a couple archers to support, and I'm more or less good. I personally like to go very cheap on my cavalry here. But, let's see. Right now I'm in a bit of an awkward position because I need to figure out what lord I'm gonna get. Enchantress is usually the most obvious pick. And I think I will go for the Enchantress here with just a bit of healing, I guess. Maybe just Earthblood spam is good enough. Chalice of Potions, and if I can fit in some Paladins, that would be good. Don't mind the Ogres that I just took out. I will be putting them back in just a second. For the Paladins, I do like to go for Flying Paladins here, as that helps out quite a bit. I'll go a little bit cheaper on the front line, though, and then slam in a few Ogres, and I think we have a build. Enough cavalry to counter any kite, and then actually a fairly chunky front line, but I also don't have archers, which is really awkward. So let me go ahead and add in those two, and then we actually will be good to go. There we go, just a couple archers, because this time around I'm actually relying on my ogres to do a little bit more damage to the front line today. All ogre army. I think you can only take like 7 ogres, so you can almost do it, but not quite, I would say. So here we go. We have Enchantress with Mortis Engine. Boxes should not do extremely well here, and I have a fairly nice front line for myself. A much lower reliance on archers too, because I'm testing out to see how ogres work at supporting the front line. Should be quite exciting for today, and hopefully we're able to win this out. Dowie, Hammer, and Anvil, come on. Ooh, that's very tempting. I might maybe I'll do Dowie pick here. There's a ton of good options in this tournament, honestly. I have just like a buffet of different choices I could do. I have no idea which one I prefer. But we'll try to get a good mix of different strats here today. We're going to play Vampire Counts with range units. We're going to play Dwarves with Cavalry. And, yeah, just a bunch of different other options. So here we go. I got my Cavalry spam. I have my front line fairly chunky and ready to go. This should be able to break through most Wood Elf boxes, unless he's gone for an Ogre box himself, in which case, who knows? Things might go badly for me. The Wood Elf army is reasonably small, but large enough where it's likely it could very well be a kite or a box. It can be pretty difficult to tell, but I'm feeling okay about this army, not to mention Enchantress can heal these bad boys up. So guts out indeed, and we'll see if it can win. Needed some green ogres so they can roleplay Shrek. That would be amazing. Is there an ogre faction in lore that sports the good old Nurgle colors? Air spam? I could get air spam. I think I would overrun the ground before air spam would win here, but I guess the possibility is it's possible. It's very possible. I just noticed I was talking about my build with an army blocker up. Whoops, but honestly, it doesn't matter. We do run into air spam, well, we'll see. So it's good luck, have fun for my opponent. And he's gone for a very wide build with Mornpin Cavalry. What the? This Wood Elf player has, he has proper cavalry. Isn't that something? That is something indeed. Now, I need to get my knights into a better position. And I need to get my ogres to actually support my cavalry here. There are a ton of wild riders converging into my position, but I do have my archers to support. And as long as I can take the initial charge of the Mournfang cavalry, I think I'm in a decent position. As for the Fey Enchantress, she needs to support the forces here. And I need to get my paladins in action too. The front line is actually not scary in the slightest, since I do actually have a fairly elite army here. And we'll see if my cavalry actually holds up here. My cavalry is actually fairly cheap in this game, and I'd be honestly a little bit worried about them. Let's see if I can get a Chalice of Potions here to wreck those Wild Riders. And in the meantime, I just want to keep my archers safe. As for the two paladins, they're doing fairly good work for themselves. I think they should be able to do quite well in this game. The balance of power is in my favor, and I have taken out some of the Wild Riders, but there are more incoming, and we'll see how well my paladins actually hold up here. The two forces of cavalry are clashing on the right flank, meanwhile the left flank, knights against Mournfang cavalry. Definitely a very interesting situation. But I think once my forces rally over on my right flank, I'll be feeling a little bit more comfortable. Not to mention I've secured myself an infantry advantage, which is very good. And the two paladins are probably the scariest things for the Wood Elves right now. And there we go. Some Wild Riders are routing off. My archers will just be distracting this unit of spearmen as long as they can. And it seems like the left flank is still holding out fairly well. My infantry ogres are holding well against the Wood Elf ogres. I do still have my paladins, so I would say I'm feeling like I'm in a very solid position. And Lunacy has withdrawn. So, nice game there. That was actually a little bit terrifying. The Wood Elf almost got a cavalry advantage over me, but I think my infantry just helped out way too much. And if you look at the value of my ogres, they did quite good. For the Mournfang cavalry, they actually underperformed quite a bit. And that's mostly because they were stuck on my ogres, interestingly enough. So, wow, very interesting game. I think if he had gone all in on the Mournfang cavalry, it might have been quite scary, but there we go. That's game number 1, GG. And now I move on to my picks and bans. Sweet. And the map is going to be Oakenhammer, now a fairly large map. All right, now Wood Elves is gone. Wood Elves being a little bit scary for the vampire counts. Let's see, I could go vampire counts, and then Dark Elves wouldn't be especially scary because I'd have ogres. But what else? What else? I think someone said dwarves. I could go dwarves and not ban high elves, which is pretty funny. Like a dwarves and then ban beastmen and something else. Bretonia actually winning the infantry fight is a sight to behold. I know, that was actually insane. Technically the battle pilgrims would have just barely won, but with the ogre support, they dominated. It was great. But I think for this next match, I will be going dwarves, and I will ban beastmen. And honestly, I want to test out a dwarf build against Skaven. That sounds absolutely hilarious. But what else? What else? Honestly, there's not a lot that's super scary when you have ogres as dwarves. I guess the beastmen and oh boy, what, beastmen and Averlorn? Averlorn? No. High elves and oh man, high elves are not scary. They are simply not scary. You know what? I'll ban beastmen and dwarves just so I don't have to mirror match. There we go. Lunacy gave me the other ban that I wanted. Yeah, get wrecked. Get wrecked. That's what you get for hovering dwarves. Oh man, here we go. Dwarves might actually be OP in this tournament with these bad boys. They got cavalry. They got mass. They're basically a better Skaven now, right? There's not much very different about it. Oh boy, and Lunacy potentially playing some Lizardmen. It's strange that Mournfangs don't have the Ogre charge attribute. It's because it's the Mournfang that's charging, not the Ogre, so it totally makes sense. Totally. And Lunacy has opted for Lizardmen in this match. Sweet! Which means that we'll get to see how well I can defeat Croxagores here. Yeah, Croxagores could be a little bit scary, but we'll have to see. We will have to see. Now, the biggest thing about dwarves is that they are able to support their the rest of their forces with extremely strong infantry. And I'll be seeing if I can pull that off today. For Mournfang and Man-Eaters, it is maximum 3. Oh, but they don't count as okay, no, Man-Eaters count as variants, but I could go all Ogre in this situation. That's pretty good. Ogres help high elves with better, cheaper infantry. Yes, that's correct, Biblington. That is very correct. So interestingly too, I can boost up my Mournfang cavalry to insane amounts of speed. And I think that's going to be absolutely hilarious. Oh boy, this is gonna be good, guys. I'm feeling it now. It's gonna be absolutely amazing. Let's see here. Yeah, this really changes the matchup, doesn't it? This changes it quite a bit, I do think. Now, let's see. If I am going for runes, I will have to decide exactly what runes I want. I guess, You know, the Dwarven runes are actually really good with ogres. Because they're really good with ogres because the runes, they boost melee attack, which usually isn't good because dwarves are generally low DPS. But the fact that there's ogres means that that's sort of a non-issue. You're actually in a fairly good position. So honestly, yeah, that's pretty good. That's real good. But I'll still have to figure out how I want to do this build exactly. I think Slayers are probably still a pretty good choice. I don't have to worry about Skinks as much, and I'm not worried about Source either. So as long as I can hold up against Pterodons, I think I'm okay. We'll have to see though. This is a pretty big map, and I definitely don't want to get kited out. I think that would be the worst case scenario here. There's a good chance that I'm going to get kited out, actually. I have to be a little bit wary on that front. Maybe I need a little bit more infantry. How do I feel about this? This seems like a decent build. Feels like a very decent build, actually. And I'll just do a quick check to make sure I'm not missing anything, and we can get into it. Ooh, I could really use a master engineer, actually. 1 second, let me make this build even scarier than before. Let's see, what was I missing? Yeah, this guy, there we go. Oh, yes, this is a good build, guys. This is a good build, I'm feeling it. Let's see, what items can I take? Not much. All right, so we'll put on some chevrons. And we're gonna see a dwarf build like none you have ever seen before. The best dwarves imaginable. Full ogre rush with runes of speed. Oh, Yiga. Man after my own heart. Or woman, or person. Yeah, that's right. It's gonna be a heavy ogre build. Guess what? We got 3 Mournfang cavalry. We got 4 normal units of ogres, extremely cheap, defended by a Dowie frontline that is extremely chunky, and Thoric with 2 very notable buffs. 24 melee attack on the Rune of Speed, plus 24 melee attack on the Rune of Doom. That will put these ogres to about 80 melee attack. during the main engagement. Should be extremely scary. I have Rangers to cover the air for me. And I'll be using the extremely high leadership of my infantry to hopefully win out the engagement here. Rangers will defend against pterodons, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. And then with a bit of cycle charging, I should be fairly good against most threats here. Good luck, have fun. And as soon as lunacy begins, we can dive into the game. And there we go, the battle begins. And what do I see? I see some red-crested skinks, skink priests of heavens. This is actually sort of an ancient salamander type of kite build. So I'm actually going to group up my Mournfang cavalry, and I'm going to get them ready for chasing down these salamanders, because you can't kite dwarves when they have cavalry. And that should be quite glorious. Now, first things first, I do want to back up just a tiny bit first so that the salamanders aren't too scary, and then I need to rush in on top of them to take them down. There's a skink oracle too along my left flank, but I'm actually more or less going to ignore it. And then I should be good to go. So here we go. Now begins the rush. The salamanders are firing away. And I have my rune of speed ready to go on my Mournfang cavalry. They should do quite well here against this ancient salamander. And I think the lizardmen, they might be a tiny bit surprised by my forces here. Let's see here. This Mournfang cavalry is going to have to cover the front a little bit better, just so that I can actually give them the speed buff. And you know what? I can actually wait a tiny bit before going in for the main engagement. So for now, I'm just progressing forwards just a tiny bit. We're going to throw down the buff onto the Mournfang cavalry, and then we're going to have them run over some skinks. Why don't we? That should go fairly well, I do think. It seems like these chameleon skinks are a little bit slow on the uptake, but it doesn't matter. Look at those Mournfang cavalry charging extremely quickly into the lizardmen lines and getting in some pretty good damage so far. Now I am, let's see here. Do I want to leave them stuck in the fight there? I'm not sure. I'm actually going to pull them back real quick. And then I'm going to throw down a flash bomb just to slow down the lizardmen forces to keep my cavalry a little bit safer here. Then I can use my rangers to pick away at the red-crested skinks, and then we're going to leave these Mournfang cavalry in reserve. The skink oracle is going to have a bit of a rough time getting shot up by my rangers, I think. And actually, I should be trading fairly well into the lizardmen at this rate. Let's see here. My engineer will continue poking away. And then as soon as I find another opportunity, I guess I'll just go ahead and get another big charge with my Mournfang cavalry. The idea is I just want to get my engineers on top of this lizardman line to hopefully win it out. I think my infantry should be quite advantaged here. The skinks have taken to this flank, so I'm actually going to move my cavalry a little bit to the side and then try and get this big old fight underway. Here we go, my ogres are fighting away on the left flank. They're actually losing that a little bit, which has me a tiny bit worried. And I'm actually going to pull a little bit, my ogres a little bit more to the side here, as I do not want them getting picked off. Thoric can now use his rune to give fear to all of these forces. The skinks should be quite terrified, I think, by that. And with the center line collapsing for the lizardmen, I'm feeling a little bit more confident here. I still need to be careful with my ogres to make sure that they don't get shot by the skinks too much. But I think I should be okay. My Mournfang cavalry actually sitting a little bit idle is a pretty big misplay on my part. And some of my rangers are actually getting caught, but I don't think that's actually extremely important for me in this current situation. More so, I just want to shut down these big scary lizardmen forces, and I can do that by sending in my Mournfang cavalry. Not only that, I can also give them the rune of negation, which will block most of the damage against them. And then I should be okay. Let's go ahead and use my rangers to continue assisting. Thoric is doing a decent job for himself. I'll slow down these units here so that they can't chase my forces. And once the skink oracle is down, I'll be feeling a lot more comfortable, I think. I have managed to chase off the salamanders, which is very good for me. The skink oracle still lives though, which is a bit problematic. I'm trying to take it down with Thoric, and we'll see how that goes. This ancient salamander too shooting into my infantry It's definitely not great, but ooh, nice. Some returning ogres who actually collapse in on the lizardmen lines. The Skink Oracle is going down. My Mournfang cavalry is chasing down these chameleon skinks, but actually getting shot up quite a bit. But with the Skink Oracle down, I can now hunt down Oxyotl, and then I'll be feeling quite a bit better. These chameleon skinks aren't too much of a problem, and I've actually sent my Master Engineer into combat to shut down the Salamander, and that's just because he's actually a decent fighter, and the Salamander will likely be going down to him. And there we go. Most of the big monsters are now routed off, which means that the balance of power is now mine. And it's just a bunch of skinks left, really, against the might of the Dwarven hybrid army with ogres. Now, Oxyotl, he is running for his life now. He will be able to escape, I do think, but that doesn't matter a whole ton. Most of my rangers are gone, but the monsters are dead. So it's not exactly like I really need them at this point. And there we go, the Skink Oracle is down. Oxyotl is fairly beat up himself, and the Dwarf Warriors are doing a great job soaking up the ammunition of all of these chameleon skinks. I think that's actually really great for me. And it's just extremely efficient in helping me out a ton that I can shield my ogres with dwarf infantry. This is like a best case scenario here. The Ancient Salamander still lives though, unfortunately. But I don't think I'll be losing this game anytime soon, since I do still have my Mournfang cavalry here, and they will be able to catch the Salamander in just a second. I'm gonna hit it with a flash bomb, and then give my Mournfang cavalry a nice speed boost, because this Salamander is essentially my the win condition here. If I can manage to take it down, then I am in a very good position, since essentially it'll be a big old melee fight. And in a straight up grind with the Dwarf Warriors and Ogres, I'm gonna be good to go. And it seems like Lunacy realizes this and taps out. And there we go. That's the build. Ogres, they paid for themselves quite well. Mournfang cavalry doing decently, mostly acting as a bit of mobility, although I think I could have managed them better. But I think they really shut down the Skink Oracle. The Master Engineer actually did exceptionally well at catching a kite build, and Thoric with his buffs, I think, assisted the army as a whole. Pretty good, honestly. In fact, I almost didn't need the Rangers. If I just went for more of a chunky frontline, it could have also done very well, but there you go, that's that. That's 2 wins off the bat for myself. And now we wait for our next opponent. Wonderful, wonderful. And that's going to be either My Son HW or Swarv. I know, finally all Ogre now. Indeed. Oh my goodness. Dwarves, terrifying with Ogres. I gotta do that more often. Dwarves, ban Beastmen and Dwarves. Amazing. I was thinking too, if I upgrade these Dwarf Warriors to Longbeards, they actually have the Encourage buff, which would keep these guys fighting for a lot longer. I think that's going to be a pretty fun strategy. Sweet, let's go ahead and host a battle just called Enticity for my next opponent to join, and we'll see if that works. Now there's the other Theorycrafting build. Play vampire accounts, and then let's see. I believe, yeah, this is legal under this rule set. You could do something like this. Now, do I think this is a good idea? Not exactly, but it seems pretty fun. What would be the best to combo with a build like this? I'm not entirely sure. It'd have to be a faction where it's sort of unexpected, or there to be a ton of large units. And I think Skaven is actually a really good pick here for that. Because yeah, you essentially have rat ogres. Let's see, is there anything it's a way to sort of make this build better. What do you mean it looks like a great idea? I think it looks like a great idea. It feels like a great idea, but that doesn't always mean that it's gonna win you games. I think Skaven do have a fair share of abilities that work well with ogres. But I'm not sure. You can't take a build like that? Because it says you can take 4 ogres or dual weapons. Max 3 man-eaters, great weapons, or man-eater pistols, and Mournfang cavalry. So yeah, you can do something like this, and as long as you hit 300 units, you're good. Seems like something I would do. Oh man, this seems so good though, right? You combine it with ooh, you can combine it with anti-infantry, so that if they bring spears, it just gets mulched. Like imagine a Skaven rush that has some plague monks to support this. Oh man. These man-eaters are so expensive though, and they don't have a ton of HP. They're totally just gonna get shot to death. And I feel like these guys, I would rather have normal ogres over these guys any day. Very, very much so. I think a wood elf build too. If you don't ban Bretonia, and then you do something like this. Tons of ogres. Go for triple Mournfang cavalry. And then you just buff them up like crazy. I think that's gonna be a really fun strategy too. And it looks like Ice Power actually progressed in the tournament. So we may very well see him in the finals, but we still have another opponent to beat. Here's the bracket. And yeah, he's going up against the Spud House. So we'll see how that goes. We shall see. So my son HW and Swarv, I'm not sure if I'll be able to best them, but I do think I have a fairly good grasp on my ogre builds at the very least. What's the map too? It's Blood Pine Woods. This one. Ah yes, fairly small map. But yeah, if I'm playing as Wood Elves and I go for ogres to defend against cavalry, how do I feel about that? I could combine that with Zotes too, which could be very good. Because like the idea is I slam down a ton of healing on the Mournfang cavalry and they win against Bretonia. But I feel like Bretonia might still kill these guys, unfortunately. I feel like, yeah, it's still likely a pretty bad matchup, but like, just think about it. No, if these guys could beat Bretonian cavalry, that would be amazing. Just absolutely amazing. They are fairly tanky. See, how tanky is Bretonian cavalry? Bretonian cavalry has less HP, so we'll see, but they do a lot more damage because of their higher model count. I don't know, guys. Give me some theory crafting here. Give me some theory crafting. I could go Empire with ogres. That's a pretty classic lineup, but it does provide the Empire frontline with a lot of mass, similar to how Bretonia benefits from it. That could do really well. Maybe Tomb Kings with Nehakara warriors for anti-infantry. Oh no, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Oh no, what am I thinking? No, the one true ogre faction, Sartosa. Guys, you can't tell me that I can't take this build. You can't tell me. It's too perfect, right? Like, the perfect themed army with Sartosa Militia, Sartosa Free Company. Oh my goodness. You can finally have a human build on Vampire Coast. Yes. You take Aranesta. Sadly, there's no living human that you can take. But you can totally do this. That's amazing. Oh man, look at this glorious build. If I make it to the finals, I'm gonna do this, guys. There's no way I'm not. Oh yeah, it's all coming together now. Now, does this still die to the usual archer shenanigans? You know, maybe not. It's a little bit faster than the usual undead style. You got anti-infantry free company. Oh my gosh, they were made for each other. Just brilliant. Look at this. I will still have to take a caster though. Or do I? Because technically you can't even heal these units. And to be honest, these units are sort of garbage on their own, but You know, maybe there's something there. Maybe. Actually, Coast doesn't have to ban vampire counts. Oh, that's hilarious. I don't have to ban counts because I have ogres to win the frontline fight instead of these janky undead ogres that cost like 50% more. Look at this. Look at the stat difference. These guys cost like 100, no, they cost 200 more. And what do they have for them? They have 2 more melee attack and 1 more melee defense. And like a little bit more weapon strength. And that's it. That's it. These ogres, they're basically they're just better on all fronts. They're faster. They have a higher charge bonus. Why do these guys have 12 charge bonus? These guys have the charge bonus of dwarves and their hulks. I think CA screwed up there, but nevertheless. Oh, darn it. Darn it, screen blocker, no. Oh my gosh. Why did it take so long for someone to bring it up? Yes. Yes. Look at the stat difference. These guys cost 200 less and they're better in almost every way except for, I guess, weapon strength, but they actually have a charge bonus. Just absolutely brilliant. Ogres plus mortars might work. Oh yeah, could do. Dwarves are supposed to charge good. Are they? I played dwarves on tabletop. It did not go as well. But like, come on, this build is magnificent. There's no way I can't go this build. That is true, but mortars also don't do damage to animated hulks, and that never really got me anywhere. But like, you know, totally Vampire Coast ban the... Do you ban Wood Elves here? Do you ban Wood Elves as Coast if you're playing Sartosa? Probably. I think this army would get shot up like no one's business. Although, you know, you can go for Scurvy Dogs and then take a bit of cavalry. It could be scary for Wood Elves. No magic. Well, like, you know, the idea is it's an all-living build. You gotta make sacrifices, guys. You gotta make sacrifices. I really do like this, so if I do go up against Wood Elves, I might ban them anyways, and then possibly ban Beastmen, because they've been a terror recently. And then go for Sartosa, and then face up against anything. Oh, man. That's good stuff, though. That's real good. But, you know, what other ideas are there? Do Dark Elves have monstrous units normally? Not really. They usually use cavalry. But, like, this is the best upgrade to infantry you could possibly take. It turns your chaff into just destroyers of worlds. You should be able to get in, like... You should be able to trade fairly well into elite infantry with the bonus of ogres. I think that's really exciting. Plus they have insane amounts of HP compared to elite infantry if you combine these guys with chaff. So I think that's real good. Real good stuff. Okay, but let's see, other ideas. Wood Elves. No, the Wood Elf Ogre combo is a lot less exciting, I have to say. There's not a ton of ideas there. Skaven Ogres is pretty cool, although not very thematic. But yeah, I think I saw Biblington mention Tomb Kings. No, Effigy. Yeah, and the Hekar Warriors plus Ogres. That's pretty hot. Very good stuff. Tomb Kings with the insane front line. No longer will Burning Head simply run over them. They got ogres now. Plus you can bring some Ushopti to ruin the fun of anyone else who's running ogres. You could use Volkmar to support the ogres. You could. Like, Volkmar can support anything though. I think the fact that you have ogres doesn't really change anything. Unless I'm missing something. One thing is that their leadership is a tiny bit low, so leadership buffs from Volkmar could be pretty nice. Let's see. What would be a good Empire build, though? Like, you know, the usual ogres plus some range units that they're defending is really good. Could possibly help against dwarves, actually. You take these guys with the anti-infantry, And that'll give them enough melee attack to do quite well against dwarves, I think. These guys plus great swords and you are set, right? Imagine dwarves trying to take this down. Blasting charges, no problem, guys. Absolutely no problem. Ooh, that's a good idea, actually. That's real good. Still haven't seen a Vampire Count's Man-Eater pistol build. Well, like, let's see. It'd be Vampire Counts. You take 3 of these guys. The main problem is that you can't heal them, though. So they will still get pretty ruined, but this will defeat any box, which allows you to go for something like, you know, triple Blood Knight, and then a fairly cheap front line because no one really fights Vampire Counts in the front line anyways. And then, you know, you smack down a Lord and you're more or less done, right? A build like this could be quite fun. Although, of course, I did go over the price limit by a lot, but, you know, you get the gist of it. You go for a cavalry build to beat wider stuff, and then you have Man-Eater Ogre pistols to shoot everything. But usually people take ranged, so I think it wouldn't work as well as you might expect. Halberdiers plus Ogres, yeah, always, you know, just throw them in with chaff and they'll do well. It's 550 gold for 6,000 HP. Now, of course, infantry have similar amounts of HP, but these guys can't get nuked by AoE. So that makes them insanely better by like a long shot. Spearmen and Ogres, yeah, just go full chaff. You know what? Just go greenskins. Go greenskins and take ITP. This is just the one of the more gross builds you could do, right? You go double ITP. You go trolls. You go ogres, and then you know, just stone trolls for good measure. You really wanna give someone a hard time, you know, you do this. You do this. It'd probably lose, but it would be fun. Maybe Norska. I think Norska benefits the least from ogres. If you have trolls already, they're basically ogres with worse leadership and a bit of regeneration, of course. But that's about it. That's about it. Norska, yeah, that's not very exciting. Rip Norska. Even in a meme tournament, they can't do well. Greenskins can't heal. Well, you know, yeah, I guess. You don't usually heal ogres, I think, because they're 550. You'd only be healing your more expensive ogres. Like, dwarves can't heal either, but it's, these guys do great. If you did want to take ogres that you would heal, you would be taking the Man-Eaters for sure, because these guys have insane stats. They have 42 melee attack, 37 melee defense. They have really nice stats, but they simply they'll get shot to death. And I guess you could heal them, but that doesn't exactly save them. So I don't know how well that would go. Could be a good combo with Chaos Marauders. Yeah, sort of, but Trolls already do that job well enough. I'm wondering though, how do I beat Ice Power's Marathi build? It did recently get a buff, and I need to figure out how to beat the double Manticore. Because, you know, even when I went Bretonia last time, his double Manticore Marathi was still fairly effective. Just because I was eating Soul Stealers with my Paladins. That didn't work out too well. I could go for a heavier archer build, perhaps. Then tons of cavalry. Actually, you know what? I think in this case, Bretonia would work as a counter to Dark Elves. Of course, because of the ogres, as per usual. But I'm not sure. Peasant mobs, though, is the best chat for ogres. Do a little bit of this. Your front line is not going to break, and your ogres will... They essentially have a huge HP buffer. They have 12,000 HP. Pretty good. Pretty good. Man-Eater pistols. Man, you guys really like the Man-Eater pistols. They're okay, but it's not like they're amazing or anything. They're so expensive. They're extremely expensive, especially compared to the fact that you could take 3 ogres instead, and they have more HP and more damage in combat. Use Albrecht to give basic ogres bonus versus large. Let me see this. I've never run this guy in a tournament before. It gives bonus charge. That's pretty good. And I'm sure he has an item. Yeah, +8 bonus first large. How very mildly exciting. I almost feel like that can be usable. Almost. Man, it's a good thing no other guys have bonus first large that is way better. It's a very good thing that Alberic is so good. Oh, rip Alberic. Rip. Just absolutely rip. I think he could use a buff. He used a little bit of spit and polish, I think. Might work against Manticores. Yeah, although I don't think you really need the bonus first large. I'm sure it helps, but I don't think it's exactly necessary. Honestly, if he just took a Lewin, he could do just as well. Very likely, anyways. Let's see, do Lizardmen benefit from Ogres? Like, you know, they don't have to take Foxagores anymore. But aside from that, I don't think Lizardmen get a huge buff. Oh, actually, I forgot. I forgot. Kemmler, and this is exciting, guys. Kemmler has a regeneration aura in melee. This can heal non-undead units. It will resurrect ogres, interestingly enough. So actually, Kemmler and Corpse Carts plus ogres may actually be the option that I'm looking for here. You give them some regeneration. You give them a bit of, you know, Chaos Tomb Blade. And you're more or less set. You know, against Dark Elf build, you shoot them up, shoot up the boxes. Could be good, it could be good. You could stalk them, stalk the ogres. With what, Wood Elves? I guess there's a few options. Man, my son HW and Swarv, though, they're really taking their time with their best of 3. There are so many options here. But I have no idea when I want to go. And this tournament isn't nearly long enough to try out everything. I do really like the dwarves though, but I don't want to run them every game, because that would get a bit boring, wouldn't it? In the meme tournament. Let's see. I am first pick too, so I'll need to figure out what I'm actually going for. Let's see. I do like the idea of the vampire counts. And then what would be my other option? Let's see. If I go vampire counts, like I'd ban dwarves for sure. Possibly even the beastmen. And a lot of people have been going wide recently against the counts. Like they have the Mortis engine anyway, so I don't think the man-eaters are actually that important. Unfortunately, I think that combo is a lot less hype than you might expect. Maybe I'll go Skaven first pick instead. And then go for a really nice box build with ogres, tons of guns, tons of infantry. Like I could do something like this. Double ogre pistol, quad ogre, and then go for just like a couple guns. These guys can defend against the air because they don't care about they're no weapon team unit. They can fight in melee. So that would actually work out quite well. And then given the fact I didn't have to take rat ogres means that I can, you know, go ham on the infantry. And because it's Skaven, I still have just a ton of gold. Tomb Kings plus trash infantry plus ogres plus Barona's time warp. It seems okay. You can sort of do that with many other factions though. Let's see, but this is a pretty good, like this feels okay. The problem is I have to worry about ogres for like the enemy charging in on me, and I don't have a ton of great options against them. That's very unfortunate. Of course, I'd be countering ogres with ogres, but it's not the best case scenario either. In fact, one thing that is very scary is chaos. You can do something like this. You could do a chaos spawn ogre build and just really run over everything. Just so much monstrous infantry, they can't really do anything about it. I think that could be fun also. Oh, we'll have to see though. Oh man. Hope none of you guys yawned because of that. I do really like Bretonia though. A Bretonia that wins the frontline fight is scary. You know, maybe I'll go Bretonia again. But I'm very tempted for Skaven. Oh, I'm not sure. Norska would be the counter Ogre faction. Oh yes, that's true. That's true. It's too bad Norska can't counter anything else. You think that cheap infantry is always a good support option for monstrous infantry. It is, but everyone has cheap infantry. And if you want to talk about cheap infantry, peasant mobs are the way to go. These guys supported by ogres is just amazing. Absolutely great. You could even throw in a few men-at-arms if you want to get real interesting there. You know, maybe some spears because ogres. Like this Bretonia frontline costs very little. This plus this is 800, 900. This is the equivalent of taking 9 great swords, and I can guarantee you this will beat 9 great swords or 5 great swords. Quite well, I believe, I think, just because of the ogres. But like this feels real good. This feels real good indeed. Plus a Lewin. You can give let's see, what's this? You can give a map-wide buff if he's at low HP, but that won't really apply too much. I'm not sure, but you know, this feels like a decent build. Plus a little bit of elite cavalry, and you're more or less that. It really does fill in the pitfalls of Bretonia because you can just go for so much, so many units. Jeez, you can take Grail Knights because of how cheap these guys are. And look at this, guys. Look at this build. 3 elite cavalry and an ogre frontline. Dang, that's good. Yeah, the Bretonia game. That's real good. Because you have these guys. They should still beat Mournfang cavalry. If you're worried about that, you can go for Grail Knights too, and these guys will just demolish those Mournfang. Let's see. Ooh, man, you can go really elite here. I'd have to cut an ogre, unfortunately. But, oh my gosh. Talk about leadership buffs. Give me a second. 12 leadership. You're turning these ogres. You're giving them 12 leadership? That puts them at 72. Do you guys know what has 72 leadership? Not knights. Yeah, that puts them in like Knight of the Realm territory of leadership. That's pretty good. Plus ITP. Oh my gosh, now that's a combo, guys. That's a real combo. You take 2 of these bad boys. Like this. Oh my gosh, you got unbreakable ogres, you got an insane cavalry frontline. I'm gonna put this in the log in case I want to bring it up as Bretonia. Yeah, Bretonia is real good. We haven't fully explored the ogre space for the Brets. I think that's insanely exciting, though. We will definitely be going for that. But what else? What else? Perhaps. Well, you know, this build has no archers, which sort of sucks. I'd probably cut a few of these guys to fit in some archers. Then replace them with, like, what, Thrusting Knights? Why do I have so much money? How do you spend your money as Bretonia, guys? It's getting easy 20 stacks. Now this would be like a no archer build, but you might not need archers when you have a frontline that wins and the best cavalry in the game. Actually, yeah, is Bretonia a rush faction under this rule set? You sort of don't need archers. Wow. That is glorious, guys. Just glorious. I'm gonna save this one. Man, this is a really long wait though for a best of 3 to finish between my son HW and Swarv. Come on, it's been about an hour now. They have to be pretty deep into game 3, I think. You don't think that you need archers with a heavy ogre focus? Probably not. Single entities is usually what you're killing with archers, but it means my cavalry has a little bit less support. And if I wanted to support them, I would have to bring spears or ogres, which actually is decent. It's very decent. You might force the enemy to advance. Yes, that helps too. It depends on the matchup. Also, the fact that I don't have much of a I don't have many slots left to fit in archers exactly. I'd have to cut something, like probably the cavalry, to fit them in. But this feels real good. Feels magnificent. Let's see, like what beats this build? I guess you can't go cavalry because you'll lose to questing knights and ogres. If you go for archers, you'll have to find a way to defend them, and your front line's gonna fall pretty quickly. What do you ban with Bretonia then? I feel like I might still ban beastmen because they're sort of scary, but maybe with this build I don't have to. And then let's see, because my front line should win fairly well, and I'm not defending any archers, which is really good. Alternatively, I can ban dark elves just because ice power means them, or see, I'm not sure. Vampire Coast, maybe? No one plays Coast. I ban dwarves for sure, though. There's no way, dwarves are just too scary. I'd ban them 100%. Followed by, do you ban lizardmen here? I think you still lose that fight. I'm not sure. Can you beat Saurus warriors with ogres? I want to try this a rush build against Bretonia, like with a bunch of man-eaters and ogre dual weapons, and then no lizardman box is really gonna win there, unless it goes full kite in the full mind games. Yeah, just full on mind games me there, and it just kites me to death. But I ban dwarves for sure, and then I can just ban by preference, I guess. Maybe Coast. I don't think my son HW or Swar really plays Coast, so I'll be fine. Chaos maybe, but I like this build. Kite would be obnoxious, ban Wood Elves. Well, like, you know, if I'm worried about Kite, I can go heavier on the cavalry. Bretonia is really good at beating Kite. Bretonia is like one of the best factions against Kite, actually, because they have a bunch of shielded and high armored cavalry. And they can basically catch anything they want, plus 2 paladins to fly directly onto key targets. They have a nice time. But yeah, Beastmen, they do have some monstrous units. So it'd either be like dwarves and lizardmen, dwarves and maybe chaos, or dwarves and beastmen. I'm not sure. Oh man. Oh man, this is taking a hot while though. I'm worried Ice Power is gonna win his second best of 3 before I even get to start mine. Wouldn't that be bad? I think the tournament asks for you to wait in the semifinals though, so maybe it doesn't matter. Let's see here. When you reach the quarterfinals, please stop and wait for Davh to message you on Discord. These games will be casted on stream. Oh, okay, so I guess it doesn't matter very much. I wonder if Davh has messaged Ice Power yet, and if he's casting those games, because I don't want to be kept waiting for too long. I guess I could check by going to his Discord. Here we go. Davh Plays. Yes, it does seem like he is casting. He is casting Ice Power right now, so that's good. It's 0-0, so That means by the time I finish my best of 3, I should be good to go. Everything lines up perfectly. Looks like Swarv and HW had some technical difficulties, but they're in the middle of game 3 right now. Oh, would you look at that? Well, then that means that, my son HW and Swarv, as soon as I finish up, I'll likely be playing. Because then, Davh will be done casting Ice Power Sing. Oh, wait, no, you're saying Swarv and HW. Okay, never mind. Yeah. That means that we do have a bit more waiting. So, feel free to sit back and relax, guys. I'll send a link in chat to Davh Plays' channel. He is much more well known than myself. But in case you haven't heard of him, that's a link. He does Warhammer content, and you can watch the game being cast while I idle around for a bit. I might have some comments about it, but I didn't ask permission, so I'm just gonna chill and sit tight for now. I would ask permission, but I usually don't play in Davh's tournaments very often, so I might as well just wait. Guess might as well open a window too, get some stretches. Hey. But yeah, I hope it is the weekend, right? I hope the weekend is doing well for everyone here. A good old Saturday should be pretty exciting. Swarv just won. Oh, look at that. Looks like I'm playing against Swarv. Thank you, FNG. Thank you very much. I will, yep. Looks like we're up against Swarv. Cool. I guess, I open up a spectator slot and then invite Swarv over. Yeah, here we go. Let's go ahead and send him an invite. And then we have to wait for the games to be casted by Davh. Then we'll be good to go. Guess I'll throw up a screen blocker in case I decide to finagle my builds at all. There we go. There's Swarv. Sweet. Sweet. So, okay, so we got wait for Davh, but I'll play Bret and the dwarves and the what did I say I was gonna ban? The dwarves and coast counts, chaos. I just really don't want to face beastmen because they're sort of terrifying right now, but perhaps I will play against them. Dwarves and the green, no. The high elves, no. Like, maybe I just do ban lizardmen, but that's really unexciting, isn't it? Maybe the Tomb Kings. Maybe the Tomb Kings? You know what? Sure, I'll ban the dwarves and the Tomb Kings. Sure, why not? Why not? If he goes and plays Coast, I feel okay. Like, I've seen enough Bretonnia vs. Coast games to know how it plays out, but I don't think it's going to be a very exciting game for us. Because there's no real reason to bring ogres against Coast, unfortunately. Very, very unfortunately. But cool, while we wait for the counter pick, go ahead and keep on watching the stream and answering questions, like the one we have right now. At Enticity, can you give me your opinion on the cavalry state right now? I'm trying to get an opinion of an experienced multiplayer player. So for me, I think the cavalry bug does not mean that they are useless. A lot of people, like, yeah, I think the cavalry bug is not as impactful as you might think, because if you are getting countercharged by infantry with your cavalry, it's probably just the beginning of the game and you're trying to get free value. So usually before you would see cavalry charging and hitting infantry, getting a bit of value, but that wouldn't really be possible anyways, because people would counter by having their own mass to support and having archers to fire in to stop you from getting in that free damage. Which means that the other scenario that shows up is your cavalry charging infantry, but your cavalry doesn't get countercharged, which means that the bug doesn't come into play, which means that cavalry is just as effective as before. So I don't think it's really a problem. And yes, Kelligar brings it up too. Cavalry is still used a lot in, it was used a lot in the World Cup. It's used a lot in multiplayer. It's fine. Cavalry still is a very useful tool. And you can tell because dwarves suffer a lot from not having cavalry. So yeah. That's my opinion on it. I think they're fine. And Swarv is going for Beastmen. Interesting. So let's go ahead and add an AI player. And I'm going to just take a quick look at the Beastmen roster here to figure out what I might be facing up against. Beastmen can be scary. Indeed, especially their cavalry. So it's no guarantee that I'm gonna essentially win any straight up, cavalry fights against them, but I should have a decent advantage. I'm going to be trying to pull that out as much as I can. You were thinking about that? You were wondering? It really made sense for cavalry to be front charging infantry, even if they are not braced. It's a mountain of metal coming your way. Let's see, you're wondering if it really made sense for cavalry to front charging infantry. Well, in terms of realism, I guess cavalry, they wouldn't really charge packed infantry in history. What you're trying to do is you charge them to try to get the infantry to rout, because getting charged by cavalry is terrifying. So that was like more or less how it worked in real life. But because Warhammer is a game, it's that the sort of realism thing doesn't really matter, and what we get is what I end up playing with. But I both options sort of make sense in the idea of Warhammer. If cavalry's getting countercharged, maybe they'll take damage, maybe they shouldn't. You could really go either way about it. It's no real qualms on that front, at least for myself. In the meantime, I need to figure out exactly what I'm going to do about the Beastmen. I do have a few ideas that may or may not help me out a lot. This seems like a pretty good anti-Beastmen build, I think. You're hoping people don't overreact too much? I think we can all hope for that. Sometimes it is warranted, though. You can't, even if you feel something is fine, you can't have a firm grasp on everything, so there's always a chance that something will end up being problematic. But yeah, a lot of people are saying that the cavalry bug is just insane, but then they end up taking cavalry anyways. But whatever, what can you do? Now, Ice Power versus Spudhouse, he's up one game right now, and it looks like he's doing quite well with his Tomb King chariots. I'm wondering if he's gonna win this battle here. Spudhouse has gone for Ogres, so we shall see. In fact, I don't even know if Ice Power took Ogres. Oh, actually, yeah, I'm not sure if he took Ogres. That's pretty unfortunate, but who knows? Actually, is he playing Sartosa? No, Spudhouse is playing our Sartosa. What a mad lad. He beat me to it. Oh my god, now I can't play Sartosa anymore. He just, he totally beat me to it. That's unfortunate. You think people like getting upset over everything? Yeah, you'll see people choosing to die on hills that they don't have to. It's totally fine, though. The whole idea of freedom of speech, right? They are free to state their opinions. and we are free to ignore them if we want or to listen. But you know, I don't really let it get me too much. If it turns out that it is impossible to convince someone the other way, and I myself am not getting convinced, then at that point the conversation is more or less done, and then you move on your merry way. Now, Bretonia versus Beastmen, guys. I think this should be pretty fun. I feel like I have a decent build here that could do quite well against Beastmen, especially since most of their new units shouldn't do too crazy well in this situation. Let's see. Like, I'm really trying to think of what I'd be the most worried about here, but I think I'm feeling okay. I think you're saying Yiga saying, I think mass buff was only for Beastmen chariots, but hitbox fixes for all chariots? Interesting. I know Ice Power has been really liking his Tomb King chariots, and he says that they were buffed, but it didn't mention anywhere in the patch notes as far as I know. So I don't actually know if his Tomb King chariots are better. But I do know Ice Power does control them fairly well, and they are quite scary. But I do know the Greenskin Boar chariots were changed in the same way the Beastmen chariots were. So if there was an instance where they would be the same, it would be there, I believe. Also, for those of you guys tuning in, I will be facing up against Swarv in just a second, since it seems like Ice Power just took his second victory. And let's see here. Yeah, indeed he did, which means that Davh will be hopping over to this lobby now. And then it will be myself against Swarv. Very nice. Very nice. The Boar chariots are like the Razor Gore chariots. Yes. That's sort of the idea that I got, but I don't know how strong they are, just because I haven't actually gone around checking yet. Unfortunately. But we will eventually. Okay, so both sides actually brought 4 ogres. That's interesting. It seems like no one's really going for the dual weapon ogres just because they're so much more expensive. But it seems like taking 4 of the 550 ogres is a pretty good strat. It's too good. It's too good as a frontline booster. Pretty sure it was about all chariots. I'm not sure. All I know is what I saw in the patch notes. And, you know, then again, I didn't actually... I looked briefly at the patch notes, but I hadn't explored all of it. So, I might have missed something. But if you do have confirmation, please send me on Discord so I may know. It is sort of my job to know these things, and to not know them is not the greatest. But nice, now we wait for Davh to go ahead and join the lobby. He should be able to in just a second. And we will see who will win, the Bretonians or the Beastmen. We got ogres versus ogres. Beastmen, of course, they do have a lot more mass than they did before. Quite a bit scarier. But in this scenario, Bretonia with so much cavalry can still pin down chariots quite well. So I think Bretonia has a fairly nice lineup here. As long as my infantry does not get completely run over. Which may or may not happen. We will have to see. Possibly, I guess I could go for an air game here too, but that might not turn out as well as I would want. So we'll see. You remember they buffed Crack's Call like a year ago? Or half a year? And it went undocumented. Really? What was the buff? I've played around with it a bit. It's sort of like a worse pendulum that's more expensive and has less range. That's sort of my thoughts on Crack's Call, honestly. But it seems like a cool ability. It's like just barely not good enough, I would say currently, but you know, I just haven't used it. a ton. That is true. It does have more damage. I think it hits harder than Pendulum. Last time I got to play around with it, but honestly, there's so much stuff in Warhammer. It's very hard to get a nice... Yeah, it's very hard to get a feel for all the units, so... Yeah. It's always very, very difficult to keep up with all the meta. I think I've done a decent job at it, but I wish I could be better. The goal eventually is to get so good at all the factions. I'm just a god at tournaments, but doesn't seem like that'll be anytime soon. I still have a lot more practicing to go, which should be a good sign for a lot of people. You can overcome balance by just playing better. And that is my aim in making the correct strategic choices and so on. Of course, you need to be good at making builds too, which I personally am, I think I'm only decent at making builds on the fly, but I feel like I could be a lot better on that front. Anyways, here we go. The next game, myself against Swarv, game number 1. I've brought a Bretonia build with some Ogre support. I've gone for the Knights of the Realm because they are especially good against unarmored targets that beastmen tend to bring with them. And I also have a bunch of spearmen at arms that will be supporting the flanks and making sure that everything goes just nice and dandy and that I don't get completely surrounded by beastmen and charged in the back. I will not be trying to hammer and anvil the beastmen unless it's clearly obvious that I can do so. And the reason is simply because the beastmen, they will have a numbers advantage on the open field, and that numbers advantage will be quite bad for my cavalry, who are trying to secure counter charges on them. So instead, the cavalry will actually be defended by my 3 spearmen here, and I'm hoping that that will work out well. These 2 Grail relics will be mixed in, and that means that this line is going to be very hard to break. These guys give ITP, and they give 12 leadership. So these guys will not be routing anytime soon, and we'll see if this is able to win it. What's this about soloing Blood Knights? What, like the Wargors? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Ogres are super good in multiplayer. Well, you know, when they're allowed in tournaments. Swarv is ready, so let's go ahead and start up the battle. And it seems like for his army, it's a fairly decently sized army. He does have a Jabber Slight. Cool, and an infantry frontline with a couple ogres, but I think I should be able to win this frontline engagement. In fact, my cavalry is quite superior. He does have a few dogs on the flanks, but they're actually not especially scary. I'll leave some knights to defend against the dogs, and then use these guys to start cycle charging the infantry. A couple spears are in here too, but I can just get underway and charge these guys. Lewin wants to deal with that big flyer over there, and I can go ahead and start punishing these dogs. Now, there is a bit of a heavier infantry force coming in for Swarv, but that's not too scary since most of my forces focus in a much smaller pocket here. The hounds are actually not scary at all because I do not have archers in this situation. And it looks like I did manage to get the Jabber Slight on the run. That means Lewin can go ahead and disengage for a solid cycle charge, and then charge in the back with my knights will rout off the ogres along the left-hand flank. My caster will need to back a little bit away to make sure that she doesn't get sniped out. There are quite a few chaos spawn too that I definitely did not want to be running into. But I think with my cavalry forces, I should be able to clean up the infantry fairly well. I've routed off the man-eaters, and then Lewin, he's just going to be cycle charging even more. Now there is a Psychor summon, not especially scary, I don't think, as it's just going to be throwing a few rocks really. So I'll more or less ignore it, but I will send some peasants onto it to stop it from throwing more of the rocks. Lewin, looking for some cycle charges. I will need to save this damsel with a couple of units of knights. I do have some lying around, so that can work out fairly well. But this blob fight here is actually going fairly badly for me. And I think I will have to probably leave some ogres and get them to disengage, and wait for the chaos spawn to disintegrate first. As I definitely do not want to be taking a hugely unfavorable fight here. My knights are going to have to spread out a tiny bit too, and I want to start routing off infantry where I can. Lewin should do a fairly good job at killing off the Jabberslite. There is a lot of mass here though, so I'm a little bit worried. And I want to get a tiny bit more infantry support here first, before I really commit to a big fight. But the Jabberslite, it is a little bit out of position, and it will dive in on top of it with Lewin, and we'll see if that's able to kill it. If I am able to do that, I think that will put me in a really nice place. The Man-Eaters are going to be quite scary, but I have surrounded the Jabberslite with a ton of infantry and Lewin and cavalry, and I think that should pin it down. We can see Swarv is moving in his infantry to try and support the Jabberslite, but Lewin, he is an absolute beast in this situation. He won't be going down anytime soon, and his mass actually holds up fairly well against Jabberslite. With the Chaos Spawn 2 now disintegrating, I can focus on killing off these Man-Eaters with my superior numbers, which interestingly enough, this time around, Matonia does have superior numbers, and I think it should be routing off in just a second. My forces, basically unbreakable in this game because of all of the Grail Reliques, and that actually negates the power of the Jabberslite a ton. You can see all of my troops here have basically maxed out leadership, which means it does not provide the Mortis Engine effect that it oh so very much wants to be giving. And this was very much so intentional. And it means that, yeah, it should have fairly low value, I would expect, by the end of this game. But just to make sure that I'm not tempting fate, I will finish it off with Lewin, using my knights to clear off the rest of the infantry. And then from there, it's going to be some basic cycle charging on the rest of the Beastmen single entities. Shouldn't be too hard at all. Jabberslite does manage to get a safe disengage though. I don't have any cavalry to chase it off, which is actually a little bit of a misplay on my part, since Lewin actually has to land to finish it. But it doesn't matter because Swarv does end up tapping out, and that's going to be game number 1 in my favor. And there we go, sweet. The Ogres doing very well for themselves. 1200 value on a unit that costs as much as Savage Orcs. Jabberslite, barely any value, because guess what? These bad boys were giving leadership to everything. Nothing was routing. The Battle Pilgrims, amazing value. Jeez, some of these units. Look, the Peasant Mobs. The Peasant Mobs paid for themselves. Amazing. And that's going to be the win. The Man-Eaters did worse than my normal Ogres, and that's why I don't go for Man-Eaters. Simple as that. That's going to be GG. Grail Reliques actually have a place now, indeed. I think they work best with monstrous infantry, which is weird because Britonia has none. But, you know, if you can mix in some ogres there, man, oh man, are they good. Real good stuff. So that's nice. That's a solid game 1. And that means that Swarv is going to have to pick a faction. And I'm very tempted to go for dwarves. I gotta say, I am insanely tempted for dwarves. But I will restrain myself. I will hold back, and we'll see if he bans dwarves, which is also quite likely. Actually, I'd say that it's fairly reasonably likely that he would ban dwarves, because I think they win the most by having ogres added. And here we go. What map he's asking. All right, well, that's my job to set. The map is going to be... It's going to be Langui. Oh, great. My favorite map in the map pool. Good old Langui. Yep, totally balanced. Totally does not allow for forest shenanigans that make rule making so much harder. Yes, truly the best map. I dislike this map more than Troll Country, which will say a lot. And there we go. He says greenskins ban vampire counts and tomb kings. All right, well, he's asking me to go dwarves, right? There's no way I'm not going dwarves here. It's a greenskin pick. Well, like dwarves and some gyrocopter cheese, come on. Or I do something else where ogres could do well. Vampire counts, perhaps. Perhaps some vampire counts. No, he banned vampire counts. Let's see. I could go Vampire Coast, but I could go Vampire Coast. That would be decent. Fairly generic, though. I sort of want to go Sartosa instead for the memes, but we've already seen that at this point. Lizardmen are a decent pick, however. And that's actually fairly tempting. See, Lizardmen with Skink Ogre support, perhaps? Or even Wood Elves with Ogre support. I mean, High Elves. Because that would make the High Elf front line insanely hard to break. That could do really well. High Elves? Ooh. I'm gonna go High Elves, guys. I have a strat. I have a good strat. I think you'll all love it. This will be good. Oh yes, this will be really good. You expect vampire counts to have problems with the Jabber Slate? Yes, they do. Undead generally have pretty low infantry, so it actually does sort of function like a Mortis engine. Pretty freaky, if I do say so myself. Now, the big difference here is that the Greenskins no longer have Fanatics. Oh, stuttered a little bit there. The Greenskins no longer have Fanatics, which means that they cannot kill elite infantry nearly as easily as they could before. And that, of course, gives me many more opportunities than I did before. Now, for my magic, I know exactly what I want to be taking. Oh yes, this is going to be very good. And then after all this is done, I just have to make sure I don't get skirmished to death. That would be a terrible situation, and if I can manage that, then I will be just fine. Absolutely fine. Now, let's see. Dragon Princes are pretty good against Greenskins. Was there a reason not to take Dragon Princes before? Let's see. Because it's Dragon Princes or Man-Eaters, both of which are pretty nice. I guess Dragon Princes, they don't have the anti-large unless I take the ROR. So I could take like a unit of Man-Eaters just to kill off, you know, big spiders and so on. That way I don't have to rely on my archers to do that as much. Let us see it. But yeah, but what if I get stream sniped, guys? Oh wait, here, this is the idea. that's the idea that I'm taking. And I think it should go pretty well because, yeah, I don't have to worry about nearly as much because I have a chunky front line. Like a real chunky front line. What are the Greenskins gonna go nowadays? What, tons of cavalry, maybe? It's not like they have flyers that would really be super scary for me. Let's see. Cavalry, or maybe he's gonna go for like a big melee build too, but Silvern are pretty good. Silvern are quite good. Alright, but I think I have what I need to round up my build, and then we can more or less ready up. I just have a little bit of extra gold hanging around that I don't really know how to spend. But after that's done, I should be good. Let's see, do I want this ability? Oh, that's decent. That's very decent. Alright, just a little bit more money, guys, and we'll be good to go. Let's see. Do I want a single unit of archers? Maybe. Perhaps. Mayhaps I want that. Or maybe a unit of proper cavalry. Yeah, this feels like a decent build. Sure. Let's try it out. Alright, there's the build, guys. It's a spear front line with ogre support and a couple skirmishers to make sure that I don't get, 360 kited to death here. I've brought Imric, who has the dragon horn, which means that my front line is going to be demolishing everything. I fully expect my front line to win, and with a few ogres, I can also pin down any spiders that come my way. Stone trolls will have a much harder time here than they usually would too, and just going high elves and taking no archers is it's a hot take, but I think it's something that Greenskins might not expect. To have a high elf build that just absolutely destroys your front line. Unless he's taken a ton of black orcs with ogre support, I don't expect my front line to really be dying, especially because fanatics are not in the picture. It's a really nice setup for... I think it's a really nice setup. Someone saying it's 2-0 already. Yeah, I forgot to switch the numbers. I'm pretty bad sometimes about changing the score to the proper number. But it is correct now. I am 1-0 in this match. And here we go. So here's my build. The greenskin build is larger, significantly so, by actually a few hundred units, but I will not, I'm not too deterred by that. I got my skirmishers on both flanks, holding the fort for me. My ogres, ready to support my spear infantry. I'm going to use these spears as reserves to defend against charges in the back. That should work out quite well. My Silverin will spread out, so I can be a little bit wider here. And then, yeah, I shouldn't be able to get flanked. I have my cavalry to defend from a longer flank. And then I have Imric on a horse, Dragonhorn at the ready. He'll be sniping out large targets with these big old man-eaters. Great weapons. They have anti-large, and that's going to be pretty scary for any Arachnarok spiders that try to find their way in here. And that's basically it. A nice little old build. So good luck, have fun, Swarv. I hope you're ready. This front line is really chunky. By High Elf standards, this is one of the best front lines you can have with an ogre sort of idea mixed in. Because otherwise it'd be elite infantry that would usually die to various forms of AoE and monstrous units alike. But with this setup, I'm feeling real confident. Just extremely good holding infantry too, plus continuous heals. But the plan is to regrowth my man-eaters to get as much value as I can on them. Oh man, look at that beautiful mustache too. Just what a good looker that unit is. Now for the army of Swarv, he does have ogres himself with some black orcs and only orc boys really on the flanks. So I'd expect my Silverin to win that engagement. And as soon as I'm done pushing through this forest, I should be in a fairly nice spot. Now these are Wolf Rider archers with some Spider Rider support. I can hide in this forest to get a bit of cover here. And that'll keep my skirmishers nice and healthy. I'll move these guys in to deal with the ogres on the flank. Vindictive Glare, heavily nerfed now. Didn't get a ton of damage on my ogres at all. And my skirmishers will just counter the skirmishers. We're effectively trading evenly on that front. So I'm actually fairly happy there. And then it's just a matter of charging in, breaking this front line as quickly as I can, and we're more or less good to go. Now the Silverin are just here to distract the black orcs. And yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're just gonna sit tight and distract while my ogres deal with the rest of the greenskin army. And then I will be diving right on in through the gap to hopefully do well against these archers who I quite want to shut down. Let's go ahead and throw down a heal 2 on Imric. And then proc his buffs. Dragonhorn will be going down in just a second. Let's go ahead and actually debuff that Great Shaman first. Use the ogres to break down the fanatics and take these guys and get some charges on the black orcs. My cavalry is going to disrupt the archer boys, and the goblin great shaman should be going down rather soon. Go ahead and send in my cavalry to do a little bit of cycle charging here. Some of my ogres actually routing off is definitely not great for me. But let's see how this main fight is going. My man-eaters are taking a bit of a beating, so I will patch them up and try and get them a little bit healthier, but things are looking a little bit bad here. My front line not winning nearly as well as I would have hoped, and that's mostly because the ogres on the opponent's side are actually being rather scary. The man-eaters not performing as well as I would have hoped against the big old Arachnarok spider. And my backline is now collapsed. Definitely a very bad situation for me now. And I think this is likely GG. I will play it out just a tiny bit though. I think, man, Imric had a really hard time dealing damage to that Great Shaman there. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed? He did get bogged down in infantry, so I think that was a good play from my opponent, and I think I will call that GG. GG, wow. Swarv GGing first? What is this BM? Did he just GG first. Anyways. You well played? Alright, so Swarv GGing. Apparently thinking that he had lost the game. I'm just kidding, of course, but of course it's a tiny bit of a BM, but it doesn't matter that much in the end. Well played from him. And that means that he will be in the pick 3 situation now. And I will be counter picking. So we'll see who comes out the victor there. I think these man-eaters are consistently underperforming. And I likely wouldn't really be taking them in the future. I'm really not liking the man-eaters. As for the normal ogres, I think they still do really well. And actually in the green skin army, they held their own quite well, I think. And yeah, I think mixing these guys in with some damage dealers, not a bad idea. I definitely think you will be taking ogres quite often. Quite often. Like, these guys seem like they're almost a must-have to make sure that your infantry does well. Because they seem to be tipping the balance quite often in these games. I guess if you go for a full kite build, it could be different. And these guys would be a little bit more of a liability. But they're so cheap and they have so much HP. They're basically the same as infantry units. So I think against kite, they're actually just as good as any other unit of infantry. But there we go, that's that game. We're moving on to Estalian Tomb. And we'll see what Swarv has for his pick 3. And I believe he's doing the pick 3 here. Winner of game 2 picks 3 factions and bans 1. Then the opponent bans 1 of the 3. Yeah, so we're going down to the ace match now. And it looks like he's going Beastmen, Dwarves, and Lizardmen. Alright, well anyways, I don't need to communicate more with Swarv. I'm generally fine with a little bit of like technically BM situations, because of course culturally a lot of people handle that situation differently. Some people feel like they shouldn't say GG when the game wasn't actually good, and it's more just a preference thing. So we'll move on from that and we'll see what the counter pick is. Beastmen, Dwarves, and Lizardmen are the picks. I can ban 1. I could go Dwarves and then ban Dwarves. Alternatively, we could have a mirror match situation, but he seems fairly well kitted out against a dwarfy sort of style. Let's see, I've already played Bretonia. Possibly a chaos pick here. If I ban the Beastmen, I have to face Dwarves, which sort of sucks. And alternatively, I could go for Dark Elves here, which could actually be a fairly nice pick. Let's see, Dark Elves against Lizardmen. If I ban Lizardmen, I have to face Beastmen, which are really good at chasing me down, so I'd probably opt out of that situation too. Perhaps a Wood Elf build I could go for, or a Vampire Counts even, against the Beastmen. If I do that, let's see, Vampire Counts against Dwarves seems like a bad idea. I could go for Tomb Kings. How would Tomb Kings work? Against Lizardmen, it'd be decent, I think. And against Beastmen, it should be decent. So I'll go for Tomb Kings ban Dwarves. Seems like a good setup. And what shall I do? I could go for Ushop the Great Foe. Definitely a very good first pick. We'll throw up the screen blocker, but I will still talk about different ideas that I could go here. So let's see. It could be Beastmen or Lizardmen. Both factions with a ton of very high mass. Could be very scary. Plus with the ogres, they have even more mass than they usually would. But of course, a lot of money will have to be spent to commit into that. So we'll see. Hey, Caradoc, hello! Welcome to the stream. We are 1-1 against Swarv right now. And We'll see how this goes. Looks like he's deciding between Beastmen or Lizardmen. Possibly going for the Beastmen pick here, as there are quite a bit of good Vanguard options. And he is, no, he's gonna go for Lizardmen, alright. Interesting pick. Now, Tomb Kings can be pretty scary against Lizardmen. Just because of chariots in general. But I'm wondering how well ogres actually support in this situation. Of course, I could take ogres of my own, but I'm not sure if I want ogres in this situation. Maybe I do. Why is it historical that Tomb Kings are favored against Beastmen? Well, before the idea is that you could spam single entities to do well against Beastmen. But it matters a lot less nowadays. Good luck. Ace match, interesting pick. Yeah, it's I'm still trying to pick up Tomb Kings myself, so I'm not exactly sure how I want to play it out. I could go for let's see. I could go for a very standard Tomb Kings build, honestly. But I think ogres tip the balance there. I'm just not exactly sure. I guess there are maybe like a couple changes I would want to do here. But I think the idea of my build remains mostly the same. Probably just sprinkling in a few more ogres than you might normally expect for Tomb Kings, but that's about it. Let's see, do I want to change these guys? That's a fairly good change, I think. Okay, and I think we have a build going here, guys. This feels good. All right, how do I feel about this? So, but yeah, the general idea is that Tomb Kings do well against Lizardmen because of Ushop the Great Bow, and it's on the Lizardmen to try and shut them down. There are various ways that this can play out, but that's a general idea, I would say. As for myself, the main thing that I'm deciding right now is that do I like Nahakar Horsemen more, or do I like Ogres more? Horsemen, of course, are very good, but Ogres may very well just be a better unit overall. And that's sort of what I'm quarreling with at the moment. And I think I have my build more or less done and ready to go. Let's go ahead and pick some final abilities here. And it seems like I'm good to go. There we go. Let's go ahead and ready up, and we'll dive on into the game. Don't you think that ogres can help undead factions? Will you pick any? I think ogres... Well, I may or may not be running ogres in an undead faction right now. But I think ogres are decent with undead factions. But the fact that you can't heal them is usually the main downside. They do provide some mass. But honestly, undead factions don't really have to worry about mass very often anyways. Excuse me. So I don't think it's super important for them to have ogres, especially for Vampire Coast and the Vampire Counts. But, you know, that's how it goes. By the way, will they be healed by the faction ability? I think they will. Unless it explicitly states that it's undead only, a lot of healing will still work. Oh, the Tomb King's faction ability? Maybe. Unless it says undead only, but a lot of the spells actually don't. It's only Invocation of Nahak, really, that specifies that you can only heal for undead. But yeah, I think it should work. Although I don't think I have any casters that would heal for Tomb Kings right now, but the passive that summons Ushapti, that may actually patch them up a tiny bit. But the Tomb King's passive doesn't heal that much, right? I feel like it doesn't. Alright, and as soon as we load in, we'll see if I can defeat Swarv in this ace match. The Ogre Kingdoms against the Lizardmen. Will I be able to win, or shall I lose? The enemy troop count is very small, which is definitely a small bonus for me. Of course, I do have my Ushapti Great Bow at the ready. Arkin the Black taking the front, and I got Carrion taking the flanks. Now, this is a very similar build to one that Ice Power actually bought against me, which means that there is a decent chance that Swarv will be fully prepared for it. But it does seem like a fairly nice build. Essentially, the idea is that you have tons of infantry to defend your Ushapti, and you have a ton of chariots to take care of the infantry. The chariots, they do have a lot of killing power against most Lizardmen units. So I think they should be able to do fine, but because ogres might be mixed in as a way of providing a bit more mass, I've taken some ogres myself, and I'm hoping that they'll be able to do okay. Arkin the Black is coming in with Aspect of the Dread Knight and Spirit Leech. And he's going to be Spirit Leeching Pterodons and giving terror to try and rout off the ogres if he can. But no guarantee that's going to happen. We'll see how this game plays out, but I'm feeling okay about this. So we'll give the good luck, have fun. We'll see if we're able to win it. Now, let's see. What would be the worst case scenario here? If he does manage to kill my Ushapti, the game is more or less over at that point. But we'll have to see. Swarv is ready. We'll dive right on into the game. And we are going to be seeing an Ogre build with a Krokgar, Hand of the Gods. That means that I want to very much, so stay away from him. And we're going to move our chariots. We're going to leave them on the flanks to split them up where they're needed. Let's go ahead and get the Carrion in. And if I can do some damage to Krokgar right off the bat, and I actually do get a fairly nice start. Now for the chariots, I want them to take to the far flanks because there isn't a ton of cavalry, and Arkin the Black is actually going to start Spirit Leeching these Pterodon riders. Krokgar taking a huge beating already, having a pretty rough time. That's very good for me. And now I can send in the ogres to start running over the front line. Some Chameleon Stalkers are definitely going to be a little bit scary. Miss Micro on my Ushapti, they actually do get in a little bit of trouble there. I'm going to bog down Krokgar to try and deal with them here. And then I'm going to give terror to my chariots to make them a little bit scarier to rout off these skinks. Now the Ushapti will focus Krokgar again, since it seemed like I had fairly good success damaging him quite a bit earlier. These chariots will be running away to deal with the ogres. And then Arkin the Black is going to be, I'm actually going to hold his summon for a bit, so that he can leave it for a better time. Actually don't need to use it just yet. As for Krokgar, he's getting actually fairly pinned down here. I'm going to see if I can actually kill him off right now with Arkin the Black. I'm going to give him a good old Spirit Leech. Use my chariots to finish off the infantry. The Pterodon riders aren't especially scary in this situation, and as soon as I can... Oh, darn it, I screwed up. I actually didn't get my second Spirit Leech because I used my ability a little bit too early. That's actually a little bit unfortunate, but Krokgar does still get routed off. I will give Arkin the Black terror now, because once Krokgar dies, it's going to be a huge leadership debuff for the forces of the Lizardmen, and then that should be game. I can't really imagine the Lizardmen coming back at this point with Krokgar with such low HP. I do want to finish him off, though, to actually get that big leadership debuff, though. And we'll see if I'm able to manage that. As for my chariots, I want to be making sure that they get a ton of value here by staying relatively safe. And there we go, Krokgar is now gone. And that should be game. Let's go ahead and Spirit Leech the last of the Lizardmen leadership. Give a big ol' summon to rout off these Saurus warriors. And yeah, this is a clear victory for me now. So cool, there we go. Unless I massively misplay here, The main goal to make sure that nothing goes wrong is to keep Ark and the Black alive and to keep my chariots alive. That's a general goal here. I definitely don't want to be losing those guys. And I think a big misplay was chasing my chariots with those big ol' ogres who actually did not participate in the battle at all. Of course, they did manage to chase down one of my chariots. Unfortunately, the rest of the army did very well for itself. And the fact that my Ushapi were just melting Krokgar was definitely the main factor here that helped me out. So overall, I think, yeah, very good game and GG. And that means I'll be moving on to the finals against Ice Power now. Sweet. So we'll go ahead and send that in. Let's go and invite him to the lobby. And yeah, we'll be good to go. Nice. So now it's a best of 5, which means we will very likely be seeing the good old the dwarves coming into play, all the OP combinations of ogres. It should be nice. The map is going to be Mortis Wastes, and I don't think Ice Power is going to stream snipe me, so I'm fine not using the army blocker. Hey, and that means I get to talk with chat a little bit. Caradoxing love to see Tomb Kings win. Yeah, it's glorious. They're very much an underrated faction. They're quite good. Of course, it's definitely a lot of people that do well with them. Ice Power, actually one of the people that does champion the Tomb Kings play quite a bit. So yeah, I watched his style, copied it, and now I'm using that to get some big wins. So all in all, very good. Yeah, they are very different from other undead, and I think the main fact is that they don't have healing. So they actually don't rely on single entities as much as other as much as other undead factions. And the fact that they have range means that they don't get cheesed as much. Oops, was typing in the wrong chat. Nice. Well, there we go. A little bit of a mistake. I said A in public chat. But, you know, what can you do? Anyways, map is set. And we'll see what Ice Power decides to go for. Whew. Ooh. Oh, wait, now we're gonna see if I can get a revenge against Ice Power. In the last best of 7 we played, he took me 4-0. That's right. 4 victories for Ice Power, and I could not take a single game off of him. He actually seems fairly scary, at least to me currently. But we'll see if I can get over that by hopefully winning this best of 5 right now. And by the way, for those of you that don't know, Ice Power does stream Warhammer. He is streaming right now, and you can check him out on YouTube. So feel free to if you're interested. I think you're picking first, unless I'm mistaken. You're rooting for me now? Yeah, this is good. I now have the underdog position. This is a nice place to be, because if I lose, it's status quo, and if I win, it's marvelous. So, it's nice, it's nice. Alright, I'm wondering though, I could play Dark Elves against them and throw Marathi at Ice Power. That could be pretty hilarious. There's a lot of good options here. I will be tryharding though, because I want to redeem myself, you know? Not that it's a bad thing losing to Ice Power, but my competitive spirit is telling me I have to get at least 1 win today. If he 3-0s me, how anticlimactic would that be, guys? Oh my goodness. That would suck. But I have had some pretty nice practice as of late, so I'm feeling pretty good. The past few games went fairly well. I had 4 pretty decisive wins. And then 1 loss. I'm really liking the ogres so far. They're seeming to be quite beastly, I must say. These guys. Just one of the best units in the game, I think. They're pretty cheap. And it's going to be Tomb Kings, banning the vampire counts and the dwarves. Definitely very, very standard picks. Very strong setup. And I'll have to figure out what I want to do against them. Now, I could go for Chaos. One problem is that I do not have healing. Of course, it's very unfortunate. Not to mention Spirit Leech spam is a pain. I definitely don't want to just be eating that all game. Alternatively, Norska. Very nice faction against Tomb Kings. Wind spells for days to kill the skeletons, but Ice Power, I believe you can dodge them quite well. Perhaps a Greenskin's a risky pick. But maybe a Skaven pick is good. Are Tomb Kings good against Skaven? I like never see that matchup. So perhaps it's better that I more or less avoid it. And alternatively, I could just go for Empire instead. Now, Empire. Empire. That could be great. Oh, it could be great. Let's see. If I go Empire... This gives a lot of options. Burning Head, strong frontline, monstrous units deal with most of the Tomb King shenanigans. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go Empire. Ooh, yeah. Now, the big win here for Empire. Straight right off the bat. Quad Ogres. So it's Tomb King, ban, vampire counts, dwarves, and then I go for Empire. I'm writing down notes so we don't forget. Now, I should be able to win the front line fairly effectively here. I can go for Flagellants, which gives me a very strong front line. Sons of Sigmar, very, very good too. And then a Bright Wizard on top of a Imperial Pegasus to make sure that he doesn't get sniped out of the air immediately, which would be very bad for me. I definitely would not want that to happen. For my abilities, I'm thinking probably just a Burning Head, maybe a Cascading Fire Cloak to go along with possibly a Boris Todbringer. Or alternatively, I can go for a Volkmar, the Grim. A little bit open to Ushopti Fire, but I think he should do fairly well for himself here. Of course, Ogres are a bit scary. But I think he's slippery enough where I'll be okay. We'll see how this actually ends up playing out. Taking him with a ton of abilities and items, and the leadership buff to keep these ogres in the fight. And already I have a fairly nice frontline build. But for the rest of my army, I need to decide what I want. Probably some ranged options. You know, double handgunner, not a bad idea. A little bit of AP should go well, but the idea is I actually have to defend them, which might not be as hard as I think. Alternatively, I think it could actually be better to go for 2 huntsmen instead, though, just because they'll be able to shoot over my ogres and hit the enemy ones. That should work out fairly well. And with a couple pistoliers, perhaps, to skirmish away Carrion, I'm feeling a lot safer on the mobility front and the skirmishing side of things. My money is fairly low now, though, and I still don't have a ton to really kill single entities aside from ogres and huntsmen. So perhaps I'll fit in one more huntsman. Maybe I even want some cavalry. And I think that's actually a fairly good choice. A couple of units of cavalry against the Tomb Kings, as long as I don't get murdered by Ushopti, then they'll be able to hold against flanks, and that'll keep my huntsman alive. And then the rest of my money can go into just a basic swordsman frontline. And this feels okay. A little bit vulnerable to Ushopti, but there is a bit of a threat saturation here that feels like it's okay. If I can burn through the front line fast enough, that would be the best case scenario. But Ice Power does like to have his multiple layers of front line. So we'll see if I'm able to win it out here. It's a decent build. Nothing amazing. And the Volkmar is sketchy. Not saying you've had Shrek songs play the entire stream, but you're not saying it. Oh dear. All right, well, I think Long Paul wins the award for watching the stream properly. That is, although that's terrifying at the same time. The stream has been going for an hour, 15 minutes. But here we go. I have a decent build. I got some ranged options. I got mass because I know Ice Power likes his chariots. And I have a Lure of Fire on a Pegasus so he doesn't die as quickly. A fairly nice setup, and all I have to really do at this point is change my mind and take a single unit of artillery. You know what? I'm tempted to go for the Hammer of the Witches, but man, it's expensive. I guess if Ice Power went for Bone Giants, things could be a bit different here. And if he goes for Carrion, it's sort of scary too, but just like a single contingency cannon feels really nice because it can kill chariots early on. Not to mention it also draws fire from the Ushabti. So I'm feeling decent about this. I have a nice 5-man front line supported by 5 monstrous. A little bit of ranged firepower. Cavalry support. Yeah. Yeah, this feels alright. This feels alright. So cool. And as we load into the game, I now get to speculate my life options and the choices of the build I just made. And we'll see if Ice Power manages to win it out here. A lot of people go for Hammer of the Witches. Of course, the magic damage is good, and it's really nice against things like Cetra. But we shall see. We shall see. I'm thinking Cetra could actually be really scary here. And it really all depends on how well these ogres do. And given that they actually do have relatively low leadership, I'm honestly a little bit more scared than you might expect. So we will continue on. Let's go ahead and form up some lines. I believe I can go pretty wide here, unless Ice Power has a ton of mobility, in which case I will go a little bit tighter. Fusiliers along the flanks, ready to catch any carrion that come my way. And then I have my huntsmen here. So if there are carrion, they will only be deployed in the corners here. I'll move a little bit close to the corners. And I will move in some support to defend my cannons if I have to. But otherwise, this is a build. I have my knights here to defend that. And now it's just a simple matter of hotkeying everything. Not the hardest task in the world. I've been trying to get used to my hotkeys too. Trying to be consistent. Because when you play a lot of different factions, you can sometimes hotkey differently. And that will really screw things up on, you know, when I'm expecting to hit 2 and to get my range units. So I'm forcing myself to have range units in the number 2 slot and my cavalry in the number 3. And I think over time this is going to make me have fewer misplays. Hopefully. Fewer flubs and so on. But I'm still working on it. You think I should have taken more missile cavalry? Possibly. It feels pretty slim, right? I'm really relying on my huntsmen to do well. And I'm relying on my front line to hold long enough to defend these guys. I'd be feeling a lot more scared about these guys if it wasn't for the ogres. But since I do have so much mass, I am getting more confidence. Could be false, but we shall see. As Ice Power is ready, he gives a good luck, have fun. We begin the game. And my cannon will be looking for targets to shoot. I'll keep a close eye in the corners for those dreaded carrion, which don't seem to be deployed. And instead, it's going to be Ushabti Great Bow. Nice, very standard Ice Power here then. And I am going to move my army up. The cannons will be shooting away at the skeleton chariots, being a huge pain for those guys. Hopefully I can land a shot on Arkan the Black too, but I would expect Ice Power to dodge that fairly well. And I would expect he's probably ready for a dodge, so maybe I will target the other things instead. Arkan the Black, he's looking to get his summon off here. And I really don't want him to summon skeletons onto my troops. So I'll see if I can stop that, but there we go, it does drop. It does feel a little bit early though, and I feel actually decent about this trade. Because my flagellants will kill those guys so quickly, it's actually, it's not too bad for me. The huntsmen do get decent damage on Arkan the Black too, and his summon actually didn't do that much damage at all. My mobility can take to the flanks, and they'll be able to do quite well there. And the Ushabti range is fairly short. They're not in range of my cannons yet, and I think my artillery should actually be fairly safe here. Arkan the Black, he's still dodging. I will continue focusing him down though. And I am going to try and get a nice burning head onto these archers if I can. Let's go ahead and bring in the ogres too, to try and pin down these chariots. Ice Power does notice that and does pull back, so that's definitely a nice play from him. But yeah, we're just using our cannons to continue peppering away at the forces. It looks like Arc in the Black, a little bit of a lapse of micro, very good for me. Does mean Arc in the Black is going to be taking a bit of a beating here. And my Sons of Sigmar, they are getting caught out by some chariots, but I do have some cavalry in the back ready to defend them. And now I can move in the Pistoliers to deal with these Ushabti Great Bow. And there we go, it seems like my center line has been secured and is now safe. But there we go, some more Nahakar horsemen do bridge the gap, and it could potentially be rather scary. However, my front line's doing really well. My artillery still just pounding away at the chariots, doing a pretty good job. And we'll see if I can actually get some burning heads on these archers here. That should stop them from being too much of a problem against most of my forces. A big old banishment onto all this infantry should do well too, and the left flank has been secured. So that's already very nice for me. These archers, I'm going to hit them with the burning head since they were firing. I should be able to get a decent amount of damage there, and I do. Very good for me. And now the goal is just to push forwards with my infantry advantage, and then shut down these archers and Ushabti, who have been such a pain for the majority of the game. If I can take out the chariots, that's definitely a +2, and the ogres are beginning to move forwards to do exactly that. The huntsmen are pushing forwards, and we'll see what plays I can make here. Volkmar actually getting a little bit beat up from these Ushabti, but he is quite the terror himself, and I think he should be fine. We'll send him in onto these spearmen. And then with the archer support, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Now, the Ushabti summon does drop onto my artillery. That does take it out, and that does actually bring the balance of power into the favor of ice power, at least a tiny bit. Not great for me. The chariots are still alive too, but if I can just kill the chariots, I'm going to be feeling a lot safer. I'm going to save a burning head too to hit up these archers, since I actually don't really have much of an answer for them. And I'm just waiting for them to stop moving, essentially, at this point. If I can do that, then that's very good. But it looks like they're actually chasing my Pistoliers right now, so I'm going to avoid the fight there. Let's see here. Yep, just continuing to avoid that fight. Definitely do not want to be engaging there. And this last unit of chariots is probably going to be my biggest problem, I think. These archers are just still continuing to hold. And actually, I'm going to kill off the infantry here to push through with my guys a little bit faster. I really want to be getting my infantry pushing forwards. And even though it's a bit of a waste of a burning head, I think it's going to be worth it. Especially since these archers have mostly not really been firing, actually. They've actually been more or less just trying to push away my Pistoliers, which have been a pretty big threat for ice power. As for my cavalry, they do catch the chariots, but it's a little bit of a scary fight. I don't know if I'll be able to kill them all here. And I am going to send in my my Bright Wizard now to try and disrupt the Ushabti a tiny bit. If you can manage that, that would definitely help a lot. The chariots are now beginning to crumble away, which is absolutely great for me. Definitely something that I very much needed. And with the archers distracted by some ogres, I'm once again feeling like I'm in a very safe position. Good old buff on Volkmar to keep him from getting murdered by Arc in the Black. We don't want any bad RNG turning things in the favor of ice power here. And then just a little bit of a banishment on these archers means that I should have a fairly secured advantage, I believe. And there we go. Ice power does tap out. And that's going to be game number 1 for me. And we took out his Tomb Kings with a faction I don't usually play very often. Whew. Oh man. But I think I did have a little bit of a pick advantage here. By going for ogres, he could not really do well with his chariots. I know that it's a unit he enjoys a lot. And essentially hard countering it with a lot of mass was really, really great. The cannons too actually got no value. What? I don't know what happened with my cannons, but apparently they didn't shoot anything. But they did distract his Ushabti summon. So, you know, 800 gold for a free ability. Okay, that's a bit awkward. These guys should have been shooting chariots longer. But nevertheless, it still went okay for me. Look at that, the huntsman did okay. Not bad. Not bad at all. There we go, GG. GG. Well played. Oh man. Finally, we ended the losing streak against Ice Power, and now it's going to be my pick. And I'm very tempted to go for a dwarfy dwarf pick here, since I could use it as a really nice counter. I could use it as a really nice counter. You know what? I might just go for the Bretonia like I did last game. Bretonia, ban the dwarves, and then ban what's the map? The map is going to be Bleak Coast Isle. Let's see here. Bleak Coast Isle, South. Well, right. There's 3 of them. And then, oh, it's this map. Yes. Oh man, this one's a little bit annoying, but I think Bretonia's fine here. And I can go Bretonia and ban the dwarves. And then what was the other ban? Banned like Tomb Kings last time, right? I could ban Vampire Coast. And I guess I will, since I don't think I'll be banning them normally. So that's a Bret pick for me. Ban the dwarves and the Vampire Coast, and we'll see what Ice Power decides to play. He has a few options here. Some factions might have a different matchup against Bretonia because they have ogres, but I think Bretonia does so well in the ogre department that they will come out on top. I think so, and that's going to be the strategy, guys. If you think this is a terrible pick, do let me know in chat. Possibly some counters and some scary picks. The Greenskins, the Beastmen, although I think Ice Power would rather first pick as these guys. Possibly even the Dark Elves. Ice Power, very good Dark Elf player. The master of the Marathi Manticore style. Could be very scary in that situation. Alternatively, you know, he could go Chaos, another scary faction. But Bretonia. Nice. Nice, very, very interesting matchup we have here then. All right, the Bretonian Mirror. Now that's a good sign. It means that my pick was so good, Ice Power would rather go for the Mirror, which is as balanced as you would expect. And that means that he won't be able to play Bretonia later. So all in all, pretty good. And I just have to make sure I don't get Fae Enchantress killed. Or, you know, I need to make sure Lewin can do okay. So, let's see. Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's pretty likely he will have some sort of archer presence here that I will need to handle. And of course, I think it's fairly likely Ice Power will have a lot of cavalry. Now, the one idea that I have, I could do something like this. Paladin Gotrek for my ground squad plus Fae Enchantress, right? That's a pretty good initial lineup, I feel. As Gotrek is just extremely hard to kill as a Bretonian player. Fae Enchantress with the Chalice is fairly good too, but the meta for Bretonia mirrors is usually you have a lot of cavalry on both sides, and I'm wondering if I go for a mass infantry style. It could be different. I could do a Peasant Uprising Bretonia build. Or somehow Felix has convinced Gotrek to join the Bretonians to help them. You know, they've saved all their money to hire 1 million ogres. And they're out to try and win it. Yeah, I could go Spear and Halberd spam like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm pretty sure this is banner rules legal. I will double check. Let's see, Bretonia, yes, it is banner rules legal. So, you know, I have a monstrous infantry box against a cavalry build, possibly. I can even go for the Fae Enchantress. Will be quite scary in her own right. I don't need Favor of the Fae. It's a decent ability, but I usually don't think it's worth the money. Actually, it's fairly cheap right now. Maybe I will take it if I have extra. And let's see. I have a ton of anti-large. I have my ogres, and then the rest is like, what, infantry spam? I'm not exactly sure. I could even go for a couple trebuchets, which could do well. On this map, it's sort of awkward. Although the map is rather huge, trebuchet should do okay. Fort Alberic for more anti-large buff. You guys are way too hype about Fort Alberic. Look, I could go Raponce and then have her blind enemies for minus 24 melee attack. Like, come on. That's just insanely better comparatively. Honestly, I could go Rapunzel, but I don't think I will. Let's see here. Of course, my ever favorite Grail Relique. That's gonna be nice. But you know, these guys are a little bit cheap. I could upgrade my Spearmen at Arms to full-on Battle Pilgrims, or I can chevron up my pole arms. How good are these guys with chevrons? Boost their leadership to, you know, I don't think they're as good as Longbeards, but 50 melee defense is fairly nice, I think. You know, I could chevron these guys up too, and then just go for a mass infantry build, right? Look at this. You know how much leadership these guys have? They're basically iron breakers. Now, I don't know if that much leadership is useful in this situation exactly. But you know, the pretty high leadership Bretonian guys. I will get shot up by arrows though. That is the guarantee. And the fact that cavalry can cycle charge would sort of ruin my day. So I think I might just cut 3 of these guys. And then go for some peasant bowmen, like so. Fit in some pox arrows, and then we have a build. Let's see, what if I do this? There we go. So I could fit in 2 pox arrows here. A little bit more of an archer presence. 1 blessed trebuchet to ignore physical resist. I think trebuchet is 1-shot anyways. I don't know if it has to be blessed. And if I do cut infantry here, my front line starts getting a lot weaker. But you know, a no cavalry Bretonian build, a box with a couple archers. This is terrible. I feel like the Fey Enchantress is gonna just melt my face off here. So I will have to play a little bit wider. But I'm gonna die to cavalry, aren't I? I'm really gonna die to cavalry. Seems like a terrible build. This feels like a really, really bad build. Like maybe I'll even put in man-eaters, but they're gonna get shot by archers too, so it's not exactly a free win in that case. I'll probably cut a Grail Relique to fit in a bit more infantry, a couple more spears. That makes me feel a lot safer. And these guys at max chevrons, you know, they have a ton of melee defense. As long as they don't get charged, I think I'm okay. You think the build looks terribly good. Alright, thank you, Biblington. Thank you. I said I was going to try hard, and now I'm playing a completely off-meta Bretonian build. The idea is, though, is that if I box, there shouldn't be a lot that Ice Power can really do. The worst case is if he has an archer advantage. That would be the absolute worst case, because then he can just peel my box away with archers. But in this case, you know, I have so much infantry. Ice Power, he might have a hard time actually breaking into this box. In fact, this is sort of similar to how Skaven like to play, this, where they will go for infantry boxes. I got my Fey Enchantress here with heals. I don't know if the regrowth was actually needed, but it's too late now. And like, if Ice Power goes heavy on the cavalry and takes too many field trebuchets, there's a chance that I could do very well here. Of course, Gotrek will have its work cut out for him to try and hunt down the Fey Enchantress. So I'm going to put them right in the middle to make that a little bit easier. But any cavalry that try to charge this formation are going to get countercharged by my ogres. And, you know, if the ogres do enough work, it's gonna work out. If they don't do enough work, well, then we lose. So good luck, have fun to Ice Power. And yeah, we'll see if the mass holds out. The enemy troop count is very large for Ice Power, which is a bad sign for me. Actually, that's fairly bad, but if he's gone for a lot of infantry himself, there's a good chance I can still do well here. It just depends on how many archers he has. If he does have a ton of archers and not a lot of support though, I will break the box formation to spread out and try and get a little bit of flanking going on. Because of course I do have my ogres here to support. So let's see, Moment of Truth, Ice Powers build, coming in with the Quad Archer. Pretty mild infantry line. Couple Ogres to support, and Grail Knights. That's where the majority of his money went. So the Grail Knights themselves aren't super duper scary, but I will have to break this box formation to sort of adjust to what I'm seeing from Ice Power here. The idea is that I'm going to have my forces here sort of making sandwiches. Okay, we got the Archer sandwich with my spears, and then we got the Ogre sandwich with my spears and halberds, and that will stop the Grail Knights, hopefully, from getting too much damage. My front line should be able to win quite handily. This Fey Enchantress is actually moving up pretty aggressively too. Not sure exactly what she has in mind. Thankfully there's no trebuchets, but I wish I had a single trebuchet to force Ice Power to advance, but you know, what can you do? Now he's going to be wasting my ammunition here for my archers just a tiny bit, but that doesn't really matter very much, and progressing forwards actually does let me take the fight in the forest a bit, and that's actually going to really help out my forces here, as my halberds can take on these peasant mobs, and then my spears will be supporting them. The ogres will take to the center and then come into charge when they're needed. Ice Power's archer line is it's deployed fairly far back too, so I can actually get some pretty good value right off the bat. And these guys are going to be holding the forest immediately, and I feel pretty good about that. His knights can't really go in for the long flank either. That's very good. And my archers are actually going to move to the left to focus fire this one unit of archers here. In fact, I think Ice Power might be focusing my archers too. So it's very important that I sort of reposition here to adjust. And a really nice position to kill off a few archers on that flank. I will definitely be taking that, getting in a bit of focus fire. Ice Power realizes that, pulls away. Lots of back and forth here, but I do have a bit of an infantry advantage. I'm going to support them with my ogres, send in the Fey Enchantress in here to support this fight, and then send in Gotrek and Felix to try and kill off the ogres. My ogres will be supporting my infantry. They don't really need to be supporting much else. My archers will be firing into the forest. A little bit inefficient, but I think I should still be fine. Chalice of Potions on the Grail Knight should work out fairly well for me. And we'll see if I can shut down these range units. I think so far my archers have done a lot more damage. These Grail Knights have sort of been a little bit timid in that they haven't really been going for the cycle charge as much. And a really nice hit over there. I don't kill the Grail Knights, but still, some really nice damage on that front, and these ogres are getting quite low. Fey Enchantress, I will be on the hunt for her, and I'm sending in a couple more units just to support this fight a tiny bit. But I would rather catch a Grail Knight, so I'm going to do that instead, and then keep pushing forwards with my very elite Bretonnian infantry. A little bit of an oxymoron there, but I'm sure it's fine. We have successfully routed off these ogres now with my archers, so that's very good. And the knights still stand mostly idle. That is very nice for me. Let's go ahead and send in the ogres to try and deal with them. Ogres onto these Grail Guardians now. And that's actually a little bit of a bad trade for me, but getting the counter charges is the best I can really do at the current moment. I will heal them up though, just to keep them fighting for a little bit longer. In fact, I will even give them a regrowth to really keep them together. And then I'm pushing back Ice Power's archers so that my own can continue getting in quite a bit of damage themselves. Now, a big dive in on the Fey Enchantress isn't too scary unless she gets fully caught here, which is a possibility. And I will be trying to escape with her, but if Ice Power gets the pick here, that is actually going to be game right off the bat. So I'm going to be focusing all of my energy here to try and save the Fey Enchantress by just spam clicking her away and trying to get her into a safer position. Balance power is fairly close, but the Fey Enchantress, she is beginning to rout. I'm throwing down a heal on top of her, but these Grail Knights are just such a pain right now, and the Fey Enchantress routes. Now that's very, very bad, but the Fey Enchantress can easily come back in the later stages of the battle, and that's exactly what I'm going to be trying to hope for here. There's no cavalry to really get her to come in and be a problem exactly. So I should be okay on that front. And as soon as she rallies, we will be stabilizing. Of course, Ice Power took a lot of damage too from Gotrek in making that dive. His paladins took a bit of damage. And thankfully, the Fey Enchantress does manage to come back. That's very good for me. Although my infantry pushing back the archers, they are having a little bit of a rougher time. Gotrek, of course, is still alive and still definitely a huge threat for Ice Power here. and I can begin healing up my single entities. For the archer side of things, both sides have more or less shut each other's archer units down. So it's a little bit of a weird situation. But I think I am able to play a little bit more aggressively here since my infantry are just at such a huge advantage compared to Ice Power. And he just has so much elite cavalry, but he doesn't have a ton of ways to actually use the cavalry because they're busy hunting down chaff. And that's going to be what I am trying to pull my advantage for, a big chalice of potion. Here too onto the knights, as they are surrounded, means that they will be having a much harder time dodging. Ice Power does manage to get his disengage though, but not without having to actually leave the battle. Although he does get a cycle charge, so I would say that that went fairly well for him. Now, for my ogres, I do still have quite a bit. And the archers, they are on the run, but they're actually not shut down yet, and they are fairly spread out. That is a little bit of a bad situation for me, as they will be able to get some pretty nice fire onto all of my forces, and actually I think I will have to pull back just a tiny bit because of that. I don't want these archers causing too much of an issue here, shooting down all my ogres. That would definitely be really bad. Gotrek, he needs to be finding a good fight too. And that could be it. Ice Power's ability to keep his archers alive. That could be what tips the favor for him in this battle. But my spears, they can still chill in the forest, and they will actually hold there to stop those pesky grill knights that are nearby. I heal onto my ogres too to try and catch a couple of the knights, and nice, it seems like I do manage to catch them. That is very good since I do have Gotrek there too at the same time. And plus the Grail Relique, I think I should be decent there. My Paladin overextends just a tiny bit, but he does manage to disengage safely. And nice, I can go ahead and take a really good strong fight there. My Peasant Archers too are supporting. These are the poison variant, so they will do quite well against the Knights here. And now I have the archers on the run, which is basically the best thing I could possibly hope for. These guys are blocking the knights, and I'm going to turn my camera to make sure I can keep a very close eye on that. And I'm going to try and hunt down these paladins. Ice Power going for a nice play. He's diving in onto the Enchantress, and he has blocked her with the peasant mobs. I will be trying to maneuver her away, but it's definitely a little bit of a scary situation. She does manage to escape though, and that is going to be really, really nice for me. A little bit of Mortis Engine on those peasants, working out quite well in my favor. And Gotrek, he is going in for the focus fire attempt on those paladins. He's a very scary force for sure, and he should be able to take those out. Some Grail Knights, possibly they didn't see the archers, and that's gonna be another win for me. Booyah! Sweet! Oh yes, that feels good. Yes. And that's gonna be it. That was a really nice back and forth. I love the dynamic there with ogres mixed in. The fact that it wasn't just a cavalry match the whole game was huge. I think if Ice Power went for a larger cavalry force, I would have been in a bad position. But my build, having mass infantry, actually ended up being a pain for him to deal with. I know peasant power prevails. I played Batonia with no knights. The peasant uprising. And look at their value. Look at this insane value. These guys got 500. These guys didn't pay for themselves, but the halberdiers actually got really close to paying for themselves. Just absolutely great. And I think Ice Power, he had a couple times where he almost won it out against me by sniping the Enchantress, but the fact that she managed to rally was huge. Definitely a very nice game. GG, well played. Wow. That was really fun. I think Caradoc says strong victory, but I think that was like a really contested match for a lot of the battle. I think I might have had the slight lead for the majority of it, but it was really fun. It seems so sad that shock cavalry suck. I don't think that game is a fully conclusive instance of demonstrating the strength of shock cavalry. I think it more so shows the fact that having chaff infantry to defend against shock cavalry actually can be a pretty useful strategy. But the fact that Ice Power takes them means that he thinks that they're at least a pretty good unit, so I wouldn't count them out. Oh, Ice Power going for Dark Elves. Sweet. Let's see. So Tower of Hoeth. That should be the map, I believe. And Ice Power is going for Dark Elves. Interesting, interesting. So let's see what his bans are, and then I'll figure out my faction picks. Without Ogre, such a build is stronger. Like you have nothing to pool Booch half to archers in the box. Oh yeah, if I just meant like mass infantry only and then more archers, that could have been pretty scary too, to be honest. Honestly, mass infantry builds are pretty fun. And there we go, he's banning Wood Elves and VP. So he's going Dark Elves, ban Wood Elves, and VP. And I will go... let's see, that's a pretty good pick. I could go for green skins. And that's really nice for me because, actually that's a bit strange that Ice Power chooses not to ban green skins here. That's really strange, and I would say that's pretty sketchy, if I do say so myself. A Dark Elf that doesn't ban green skins. We'll see if I have another option that I want, though. High Elves, possibly. That could go quite well. Of course, Chariots are pain to deal with if you're kiting. And I don't know if that's exactly what I would want to go either. Alternatively, Lizardmen. Quite scary. But I still don't have a ton to deal with the Marathi combo. Of course, I could go for Tic-Tac-Toe and go for an Air Squad. But I think Ice Power would have ways of dealing with that. Let's see. Possibly Lizardmen, though, is sort of the idea I'm thinking off the bat. Possibly Beastmen to close off the thing. Let's see here. Yeah, this is the finals. And if I win this, it's done. Yeah, this is the finals. Potentially the last game. Let's see. Lizardmen are pretty good here. You know what? You know what? I will go Lizardmen. I will do it. Is this a crazy play? Is this an absolutely insanity play? Have I just played myself? We'll see. Now, Lizardmen are very scary. Ancient Salamanders, great option against for kiting out the Dark Elves. They were extremely cheap, very fun to play with. And I just need to make sure that I don't get murdered by Scourge Runner Chariots and the Dark Riders, Repeater Crossbows. That's gonna be pretty bad. And let's go ahead and go to the Lizardmen page on the banner rules and figure out what I'm actually allowed to bring in this current rule set. Now, one interesting note, these guys are a lot cheaper. Minus 100 gold is fairly nice. And the Chameleon Skinks are a lot more expensive, but I think they are still good enough where I will take 3 of them. And this is because I don't want Dark Riders to be too problematic. I will be kiting in this game because I think that works better against any Marathi Manticore stuff. And I just have to figure out a way to deal with Scourge Runners. Now, Oxyotl actually could be a really good option against Scourge Runners. Because, yeah, he has this ability. I can shoot them out. Some pretty nice damage there. I have my Skirmishing Corps. And then enough to deal with basically infinite amounts of infantry. And I just need to figure out a way to catch out the Scourge Run. Oh, well, I have a bit to deal with Scourge Runners, but these guys don't do that much damage. And they'll be taking a bit of damage themselves. I guess the Skink Oracle is not bad. Can't really go too wrong there. Plus the Fireball spam. Possibly Flock of Doom spam. But, you know, Earthbloods could do well too. I'll take this lineup on them. Although, I usually don't spam Fireballs that often. But it could help against the Scourge Runners. Oxyotl is strong? Yeah, I think so. I could even make him cheaper and take away this ability. It does mean he'll get sniped out a bit better, but I think the money saving is really nice. I saved 200 gold by not taking that. The Skink Oracle is really good for sniping. I am maxed out on my monsters, though. Oracle might get hunted down by Marathi. Yes, that's why I have the Chameleon Skinks. I think without them, it'd be pretty bad for sure. And then can actually go for a bunch of chameleon stalkers. Now these guys, they do well against cavalry. And if I'm kiting, these guys would be a really nice screen against ice power. In fact, I could do a build as silly as this if I wanted to, because these guys don't count as ranged in the current edition of the banner rules. Or at least Falcon's rendition of it. Let's see. This is about as silly as it gets, and if it wins, that would be hilarious. But let's double check that it's legal. Yeah, range units not included chameleon stalkers. So I will try a crazy lizardman kite build then. Let's see, they do count as the same unit though, so I can't take more than 8. So this is as crazy as it gets. So I have my, you know, anti-skirmisher ability, I have my anti-infantry. They don't count in Falcon's version of the rules, and that's what we're playing on currently, I think. Let me double check. Yeah, the rules of play, it's using banner rules 4.05, so... Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy. I can go for what looks like a crazy ranged army, even though it isn't. Amazing, but I don't think it's exactly broken by any means. I think it's just a fun little thing. What, I could go man-eaters with ogre pistols? Sadly, I don't think this will be an ogre-heavy game, unless maybe I take Mornfang cavalry. But probably not. Probably not. Maybe Umbral Tide. But probably not that either. Feral Cold One's not a terrible choice. Essentially, if I take out the mobility for ice power, I should be fine. Now, what I could do, I could go Skink Cohort with Javelins. It means I don't have a lot of mass in this situation. And if he goes tons of cavalry, I'd be a little bit screwed. But I think the Chameleon Stalkers are good enough to actually hold out on their own. I don't think I need Feral Cold Ones. And that's sort of what I'm banking on here. So I've got a full Lizardman range build. I have 4, 8. I only have 11 range units according to the rules. Do they count as 360? That's the last thing I have to double check. They don't count as 360, so this is totally fine and legal. Amazing. Absolutely amazing, guys. They don't count as 360 and they don't count as ranged. And we'll see if I can use that to my advantage. If I can, I think it should be a pretty fun demonstration of this fairly fun kite build. All ranged. If there is someone you could pull that off, it's me. Yeah, all technically not ranged, but basically ranged. And I am super excited for this build. Because guess what? Look at this front line. Oh my gosh. Does this not look insane to you guys? I got the Chameleon Skinks to slow down Ice Power's front line. His cavalry. And then I have the rest of the army to blow them up. These guys are really good at against cavalry. If you look at their missiles, they actually have impact damage. So against the usual unarmored cavalry of the Dark Elves, they will actually do quite well. I have my Skink Oracle, and then a bunch of Chameleon Skink Javelins just as a little bit of side support. But yeah, this is the build. Oh my gosh. Look at this. This is great. This is amazing. I love it. There we go. We'll put them on 2. Now, the worst case scenario is we see Bolt Throwers, but guess what? I have Fireball. This is as good as it gets, guys. Fireball spam into Ice Power. Here we go. Good luck, have fun. Not like chameleons are hard to protect. Yeah, these guys, they might just get run over by Scourge Runners, but I'm hoping that with the Skink Oracle and the 2 Salamanders, I'll be in a better place. We'll see. Ice Power is ready. His army is fairly small, and we are seeing Scourge Runner Chariots, Marathi, and that's about it. Fairly nice build from Ice Power. I will be moving in the Skink Oracle. Hopefully be picking away. The Salamanders will be moving up too. And then let's see how well these guys do against some chariots, why don't we? Now, Oxyotl, he has a fairly nice range attack that should do well against the chariots. We'll see though, it might not do as well as you might expect. But there we go. His chariot's already taking pretty decent damage. And we're just gonna begin kiting away. Look at that, his chariot's already fairly beat up. I will go ahead and send a fireball over into them now. And then Oxyotl is just going to be a pain by poking away at them. Salamanders killing off the infantry, doing very nice for themselves. And then soon enough, I'll have them killing off the Blackguard of Nagaron. So that should work out quite well for me. Oxyotl just continuing to kite away. I'm going to have him focus the chariots now. And then let's continue pushing away. Seems like things are going fairly well for me. I think Ice Power was definitely not ready for a kite build today. So this should be going very well for me. We've already routed off one of the Dark Elf infantry units. And now I'm going to start picking off these Sisters of Slaughter. And Ice Power can't really easily push up onto me because, of course, I have tons of units that can essentially kite away here and punish these chariots. But I will have to push forwards a little bit to save these stalkers. Let's go ahead and see if I can support them. I will use one of these skinks just to provide poison and slow down those units. And then let's see, I will throw down a heal here just to pick up a few of these forces. But with the shots of this skink oracle, I think it should do very well against these scourge runners. Just because it does insane amounts of damage when shooting. And there we go. We already see the Scourge Runners are now routing off the battlefield. That is very nice for me. Let's go ahead and throw down a Flock of Doom too. The AoE is bugged also, so I will be hitting all of the units in this situation. And that's obviously going to be very nice for me. These Dark Riders, they do charge in valiantly, but they do get shut down in Ice Power. He taps out! And that's going to be game. Essentially kited to death there with my army. Now, I'm going to say real quick, these guys, I personally feel like they are 360 and ranged. Personally. But that is merely an opinion. I think in normal games, these guys do fairly, they do fairly well for themselves. Oh, yes, Viking, that's true. That was bug abuse. That was bug abuse, technically. But yes, these guys, in a normal rush game, they do fairly well, but they actually support kite builds extremely scarily. And that's sort of what has me a bit worried there, but there we go, GG! And I don't think they're OP by any means, but this is a playstyle that will be possible with the new unit, and depending on how we restrict them, that will change things. But there we go, I think that's it. I think we 3-0'd Ice Power. The Revengeing, but I don't think, you will vary between days. And I think today I got pretty lucky because I do regard Ice Power as a very, very good Warhammer multiplayer player. I will search for his Warhammer. I will search for his actual channel here. I don't know. Here we go. Ice Power. Yeah, I will put up a link to his channel here, guys, so that you guys can check him out. I think the tournament's over, right? But anyways, there you go. Feel free to check him out. I do very much respect him as a player, so show some love. Although he does get more salty than I usually do. I like to stay pretty tame during these streams, but yeah, I think it's all pretty good. So there we go. I think that's about it. I'll stick around for a quick second to see if anything's going on here for the end of the tournament, but it looks like that's gonna be it. So yeah, Ice Power is like a champ, like I am. Well, thank you very much, Cap. But yeah, I can back that. I have to play versus Davh now. Yeah, totally, Viking. I think so. Will you continue to test the fruit rules and developing them for this patch? Indeed, I will be testing the fruit rules actually very soon. Early in this week, I will be hosting my own tournament that is open to all using the fruit rules. So feel free to join that, guys. The posting isn't up yet, but I'll probably get that in sometime today. Not sure you can tell best way to dodge magic missiles is by moving to different elevation. Yes, I've done that before. You can dodge fireballs by using hills. It's great. It's great. It seems like Ice Power is not feeling too great about himself right now, but it happens. It happens. And of course, it sucks to lose a string of games too. But yeah. It's nice. So I think I will just end it off here then. So thank you very much, guys, for coming in to watch today. I think we had a very nice set of games. It was a really fun test of Falcon's banner rules. And I think this build is the one to look at for to see how we want to balance things out. I think it's scary, but I don't think it's unbeatable. And with that, I'll wait for the stream to catch up, and we will close it.